Welcome, everyone, to day 5 of Blue Talk's Amplify Your Message. I am your host, Laura Lake, and this is my co-host. Oh, on this side. This is my co-host today, at least for the first part, Maria. Maria, I want to know just a little bit about you so that we have some sort of context and understanding of where you're coming from for your questions today.
Beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me to be here with you, Laura. Very exciting. I am a quantum healer activator and a business coach and a functional nutrition coach. And I've been in this sort of world since I can remember, 5, 6 years old. I've been working with my angels, again, as far as I can remember, for a very long time, walking into worlds. And throughout my journey, I just developed different techniques and I continue to do my work. And I've gone into other areas like NLP, hypnotherapy. Yes, so it's been a very fun journey in terms of the evolution of my abilities and also the evolution of my work. So early on was very much working with spirit and helping spirit become free and come back to the individual. Now my work is definitely about that, clearing the spirit, bringing back the spirit, allowing the spirit to be free to fully express itself. But now it's also the individual to fully express themselves in their physical body with optimal health, fully express themselves in their mind, resetting, reprogramming their belief systems into something very powerful and aligning with their full potential and moving into a space of embodiment, empowerment, and full potentiality.
Nice. Thank you for that, Maria. That I don't believe we've had a conversation before. So it's even nice for me to know. It's like, oh, now I know if I can take questions in certain directions, you may have some expertise in that area to help bounce back. So I love that. For those who have never met me, I love to talk about courageous connection. And really what that looks like is I help you understand you so that you can understand your audience a little better by elevating the way that you share your stories and your message. So our first guest is behind the scenes. Just give me a thumbs up if you're ready to come up on camera. Awesome. Sometimes you never know, like somebody wants to fix their hair, there's something in your teeth, so you have to ask every time. Emilio, welcome to the stage.
Thank you so very much, Laura, and a pleasure to meet you personally, and Maria, you as well.
So I have this question that I love asking at the very beginning of an interview because what it does is it shakes people up a little bit. We've playfully been making fun of the whole elevator pitch and how all of those pre-programmed things, we've just heard them so often. That's not so much fun. So I like this question at the beginning just to kind of bring you out of that comfort zone, to kind of force you into, well, oh my God, who's Emilio? So if you're ready, I'd love to ask.
Let's go for it. I'm outside my comfort zone.
And I do not have my normal notebook, so I'm just going to grab a random piece of paper because part of this is research for me as well. Every interview, I ask this question, and then I like to find the patterns. So here's the question.
All right.
If you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
Oh, my goodness, Laura. You're killing me. You're killing me.
I know.
Well, let's see. I am extremely loyal. I do think in my heart of hearts, although some might dispute it or think slightly differently because I have a little bit of an ego-driven side, as most of us do. But deep down inside, I think I'm a fairly humble person. And I'm also a very persevering, resilient person. I could go on with the list, but since you only gave me, I guess we'll stick with those 3.
And that's how you would love other people to describe you, not how you just generically describe you?
Yeah, I think that's, yeah.
Double checking. So loyal, humble, and perseverance/resilience. I love that. So then the next, of course, follow-up question is, how do these words play a role in the message that you share with people? The loyal, humble, and perseverance and resilience.
Right. Well, they play a big role in terms of at this stage of my life. Keep in mind, I'm just a couple of months older than you. That I'm glad you chuckled. Uh, that I reflect back on my life, and not just my previous life, but my future life, and I'm trying to set a stage and a legacy for my family, in particular for my kids, and trying to show them that grit, perseverance, resilience, determination, and most importantly, as Corey knows, because this is how I met Corey, delayed gratification,
Oh.
how that's been a huge part of my life. And I mean, if we have time, I could take you through that whole aspect of things. But as a result, that's kind of been my mantra, and so and just as a human being, and I think my wife would attest to this. She knows that I'm extremely loyal, and I'm really truly deep down inside again humble, even though I do like doing things like this. I do like being somewhat in the spotlight. I don't shy away from that, but humility, I think, is an important aspect of life.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if I answered your question. I got sidetracked.
That's
Whoa.
okay. You never know where the conversation's going to go, and that's the fun part to me.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah.
we were just asking about the message that you have behind who you are, as well as any sort of business or businesses that you run.
Yeah, and I think that is the message, that you must work hard, you must persevere, you must embrace failure and use it as a stepping stone to success.
Mm.
You must be resilient. You must have a kind of a thick skin, to be quite honest, and you must be able to take on and embody a level of delayed gratification, because it's not the way social media portrays it, that everything comes instantly. That's just simply not the case. And trying to teach that to our teenagers, and it's a daunting task. Life is so different now compared to when I was growing up. As an immigrant to this country, having nothing, my parents and I, having nothing, everything was a bonus. Going to McDonald's was a huge deal. Now no one thinks anything of it. So it's a matter of like a bit of a paradigm shift.
Yeah. So then it sounded like there was some sort of story both with you and Corey and that delayed gratification, as well as the story behind that whole message. So
Yeah, well,
pick
the
one,
story,
start there.
yeah, the story starts out very simply. I was really blessed to have met Corey and have him become a part of my life, because we both met as TEDx speakers on the TEDx Cherry Creek stage back in
Oh,
August of 2023. This is outside of Denver. And at that stage, that's where I delivered my first TEDx talk, titled Delayed Gratification, Your
oh,
Superpower to Success.
yeah.
And again, I wrote that talk in the back of my mind with my family, my kids in mind. I thought, this will be a good opportunity to kind of expound upon my own self mantra, 'cause my own mantra that I never really verbalized throughout my life, but it was always in the back of my mind, is
Yeah.
number one, self discipline. That's
Mhm.
a big key. Number two, perseverance and resilience, and then number three is delayed gratification. That's always what's I feel has made me successful. Well, that TEDx talk, now here it is, 8 months or so later, 7, 8 months later, is now nearing 6 million views on YouTube.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And again, I say that very, very humbly. I mean, it is what it is, and I'm grateful. I met some wonderful people, Corey being one of them,
Mhm.
at that TEDx event. It also spurred me, as I saw that the video was gaining popularity. I thought, gosh, what a great opportunity to start writing a book. So so I did. So I actually not to. I mean, the purpose of this interview isn't to plug my book, but shamelessly I will.
Oh,
So
do you have it? Oh, good.
basically,
Can you put
this
some little
my
places?
book my book
Oh,
will be coming out by the end of the month. It's called The Power of Pause: Mastering Delayed Gratification for Success.
yep.
And it'll be available on Amazon, uh, and so I'm excited about that. It's just something I've never done before. It was a long process, a difficult process, because when you're working full time as I do, I'm an eye surgeon and a cosmetic surgeon outside Phoenix. So I work 50 hours a week, and then don't have a whole lot of time to be doing these peripheral things. But at this stage of my life, I figured I really need to do these other things. I mean, this is the time. It's now or never. And so that's kind of what's gotten me on this journey. First, the initial TEDx talk, then the book, then I delivered a second TEDx talk just a couple months ago in February at Western University in London, Ontario, Canada. Are you Canadian, Laura?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so you may be somewhat familiar with London, Ontario, there at TEDx Western U, and it was basically on the topic was unleashing the drive within, the obsession advantage to unprecedented success. So it's all about the power of obsession and changing the paradigm from the negative connotation of obsession to the positive connotation of obsession, which again is part of my mantra as well. My mantra is now, instead of a triad, I think it's expanding even further. But I think in order to achieve and get anything that you really want in life, you must be obsessed about it. Without that obsession, you're not going to get it. So my new mantra is: progression requires obsession. Progression requires obsession.
Soundbite. One of our previous interviewees, I think it was a few months ago, maybe late 2023, somebody had said that when we have goals, there's some sort of decision being made, but really the feeling of it is a devotion. And I was like, oh, the energy of that word just comes with so much love, which we forget a lot when it comes to trying to get to our goals and accomplish our goals. We're like, discipline, the whip crack, all of that. And I just love that she used these other words to say, you have to dive deep in yourself. You have to have that commitment, but also with that love and that devotion that just deepens everything. So I love what you're saying here. Do you have any goals, since we're talking about goals? Like, what would be crazy cool? Rub a genie lamp, like snap your fingers, crazy cool to happen for you in the next 12 months.
Oh, well, okay, sure. If you want a genie lamp, I would say, well, let's make this book be not just an Amazon bestseller, but let's make it be let's get it to the New York Times, make it a New York Times bestseller, and let's show up on some of the major national networks in the country. Again, that being that humble person, remember that I am. I like that spotlight, and so I'd love to be on some talk shows, right? So, so if that's my genie wish, that's what it is. I'd love to be out there in the world, because I'm just an ardent believer, and my conviction is so deep on this. Again, a lot of people don't really know who I am. I mean, I did say that I'm an eye surgeon and a cosmetic surgeon, but my beginning started coming to the United States. I'm an only child. I came to the United States with my parents as Cuban refugees, escaping Fidel Castro at a very young age. I did majority of my growing up outside Gary, Indiana, and ended up going to college and medical school at the University of Michigan. And then I've been in Phoenix since 1989. So I've been in practice for over 35 years now. So it's been quite a journey in my younger years. Boy, I actually talk about some of those stories in the book, because I grew up from kindergarten through fourth grade, not with my parents, but with my grandparents in a little tiny college town in Tarkio College, Missouri, because although my parents were in Gary, being Cuban refugees with literally nothing, we came over with just the clothes on our back, that my father was working 2 full-time jobs. My mother, who had her doctorate in education in Cuba, of course, when you come from a communist country, your credentials don't transfer. So basically, she went from Gary while my father was working. She went down to southern Indiana to Bloomington, where Indiana University is, to restudy in a new language, right? She didn't know English, to study, and got her bachelor's and master's degrees. So she ended up becoming a high school teacher, which she did for 30 plus years. So they were busy getting set up. I was in Missouri growing up with my grandparents, who came over from Cuba separately. That's why they were in Missouri, because back then there were church organizations that would help transition Cuban refugees that were coming in. So the church that helped my grandparents located them in Tarkio, Missouri. Our church located us in Gary, Indiana. So we're one of those Cuban families that did not come in through Miami, as people automatically assume. And so it was an incredible childhood. I mean, I loved every minute of it. It could not have been a more exciting and loving, nurturing. My parents and grandparents were incredible role models to me, and I love them dearly for that.
What inspired you to have that initial concept and idea of that delayed gratification? What was your experience with that?
Yeah, I don't think it was an inspiration so much as it was just a fact, right? When you don't have anything, you just work hard. Coming from an immigrant family, the traditional immigrant mentality, which you'll hear over and over from any immigrant ethnicity in the world, is you come over to the United States and your parents kind of instill in you the importance of education. And so they always talked how important education is. And I believed it. Thanks to God, I was blessed with having that ability, that things didn't come easy to me. I worked my butt off, but I loved education. I loved academics. I loved sports too. And there came a turning point in high school, because I was, as a lot of Cubans, I hate to stereotype, but it's the truth. As a lot of Cubans, I was very good in baseball. So I was a baseball pitcher, and I really wanted to try and become a professional baseball player. And I remember sitting down one day with my parents and one of their best friends that were over, and we were discussing it. And they said, "Look, we know you're good at baseball, but realistically, statistically speaking, the odds are that you making it big in baseball, might be one in hundreds of thousands. Whereas if you just continue on your academic journey and do whatever you want to do," and I was very interested in science and medicine, that the statistical probability of being successful is much higher. So I always valued my parents' opinion, and I digested it, and I thought, okay, they're right. They're right. Let me just take a more traditional approach. As it turns out, one of my high school fellow pitchers actually did make it into professional baseball and play pitch for a number of years. So it gives me some feeling, thinking back, that I probably could have done it. If the stars were aligned. I mean, because I think I was pretty much almost as good as he was. But regardless, I have no regrets. I enjoyed my upbringing. Was very active in sports, very active academically. Got some wonderful breaks along the way, because I became valedictorian of my graduating high school class. I was accepted into the University of Michigan's prestigious 6-year pre-medical medical program, which they were only accepting 1 out of 10 out-of-state applicants. And so this was a program where it was kind of a fast track. So I graduated high school at 17. I graduated medical school at 23, which is almost unheard of. And then I did 4 years of my residency training in Washington, D.C. And then I came to Arizona. So I started private practice at the age of 27, which is super young. I mean, I remember coming to Phoenix at the age of 27, and everyone around me was so much older, and I felt like a little baby. But that's my story, you know. And again, I've lived just such a blessed life. It hasn't all been easy. I mean, I've had incredible obstacles. I've had some mammoth failures that I wish I hadn't have had, but they've made me who I am today. And as my wife, who bless her heart, she's my rock, as she's always preached to me, is when life deals you lemons, what do? You make lemonade. You make the very best lemonade you can.
Lemon cake.
And I've been dealt some lemons, and not because I've been dealt. I've actually made poor decisions, given me those lemons, and it is what it is. It's made me who I am. I've learned from them. I've tried to do better, and I'm proud of who I am and who I've become.
Aw, I love that. So you talked about writing a book and also being on stage. So that's writing and speaking. Were you always good at writing and speaking, or was there ever a time where you struggled with that?
That's an interesting question, because it's funny, you know, and I almost hesitate saying some of these things, because remember, we started this conversation saying how humble I am, which I truly believe that. But so it sounds like I'm bragging, but I really don't mean it that way. It's just funny, because here I am, a Cuban immigrant, and I remember in junior high and high school, I was so into academics and learning everything that in English class, I would actually sometimes correct the English teacher, because I would find errors that the English teacher would make. And so yeah, so I'm sorry, forgive me. What was the question?
Oh, did you ever have a time where you struggled with writing or with speaking, where it wasn't necessarily something you wanted to do?
Yeah, I mean, I writing was okay. I mean, it wasn't that I love writing. The speaking, yeah, I kind of had an affinity to it. Starting, you know, again in high school, had to, of course, deliver my valedictory speech.
Mm-hmm.
I also, growing up in Indiana, we have in the United States, this wouldn't apply to Canada, but there's a national organization called the Daughters of the American Revolution. And they sponsor all sorts of civic things throughout the country in schools. And I won the Indiana State Good Citizen Award from the Daughters of the American Revolution. So I had to go, when I won that award, to accept it, I had to go down to Indianapolis, to the Capitol, and deliver a big speech in front of, I don't know, it's probably 500 people. I mean, that was just kind of overwhelming when you're 17 years old. But it was exhilarating. You know, I mean, I just absolutely loved it. And I just love being in front of people. As a youth, again, in middle school and high school, I was also, in addition to sports and academics, I was very involved in magic. I was a magician. And so I would do, you know, magic shows, like for kids' birthday parties and things of that nature, you know, just to make $5 or $10 or whatever. So there's a little bit of a ham inside of me. That's okay. I enjoy it to this day. You know, I've always preached to my office staff. I have, again, very fortunate and blessed. I have many staff members who have been with me for over 25 years. Mm-hmm. And I always preach to them that when I am in the exam room with a patient, that the world around me shuts down and I am an actor on stage. And what that means in a positive way is that when I'm face to face with that patient, that my act, in a good way, is that my full attention is on why they are there and their needs. I have to shut everything else off. I don't care if the world is falling down and crumbling around me. I have to shut that off. I have to get inside the world of my patient. So it's kind of an act but an act of caring, because I really do care for my patients and I want to treat them as if they're my own family. So that's the kind of the in-office mantra is that I am an actor on stage.
Well, that works. Were you ever actually an actor on stage other than the magic tricks?
No,
No.
amazingly not. I regret that. In high school, we had a wonderful drama club, and I was in the drama club, but not as an actor. I was one of the backstage people, with the props and things
Yeah.
like that. And frankly, I think the reason I shied away from the acting part is that I was just so into my academics and sports that I just didn't have enough time, right, to be an actor in the drama club. Requires a lot more time and energy because
It
you have to
does.
memorize parts, rehearse them, etc. Whereas when you're just a prop person, you just kind of show up and do your thing and then go home and not worry about it. So no, so I never actually got on stage, but I'm ready. If you Maria, Corey have any gigs, I'm ready to take them on at this point in my life. Know any producers? I'm always looking for a producer or director who can give me a little bit of an inside scoop.
So one of the interviews we had yesterday, she writes plays. And so she would distribute these plays to different schools and high schools all over the country. If you watch yesterday's interview, you can hear more about it. And if you want, I can connect you to. But I've been on the stage acting since I was 4. But
Wow.
speaking was this whole other realm, which had a different set of skills. And so I didn't like it. So I like hearing when people say, this isn't my forte, but yet I figured it out because it's something that I wanted to do. So Emilio, are there other ways that you like to share your message that maybe you're not yet?
Other ways. Wow.
Yeah. Like we talked about painting and dancing and poetry and acting and like
Yeah.
photography, all kinds of ways. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the acting, okay, my genie wish again, I'm going back to that concept. The acting I would love to do if it was acting, not so much. I'm not so much in my mind looking for acting on a small stage, like in a theater. I'm talking about acting like acting in front of a big screen or TV, that sort of acting. Okay. I mean, it's either that or nothing. I'm not looking to go to a theater. But as far, I must admit, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but it's the honest truth. I'm not really too much into the rest of the arts. It just doesn't, at this point in my life, it doesn't appeal to me. So I'm not into painting or sculpting or those fine arts. I mean, yes, will I occasionally uh, go to a symphony or a play? I mean, I do enjoy watching plays, so that's different. So, but as far as me being on stage for a theater production, not that sort of acting.
It could also be like development of a product, right? There's that science side too. Most people do tend to go to the artsy side or the more creative side. But when I think of creativity, I think of it as also problem solving, which is very much more of the scientific, logical side of things too. So is there anything other than writing and speaking, is there anything you'd want to do?
Oh, other than writing and speaking.
Well, I guess podcasting too. We're here.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure, but this is kind of an extension of being on screen, so to speak. So it's just a smaller version. But no, truly right now, my main focus in the back of my mind, because again, understand I have limited time, unless of course, George Clooney gets sick and they need a fill in, then I drop everything. I mean,
You're like
literally,
body
I
double.
drop everything. I am there. The practice can wait. But but right now, given the fact that I love my work and I'm working still so many hours, that my main focus right now is really just on speaking. I mean, I love opportunities to get out there and speak, to share my message, my history, whatever little pearls of wisdom I've gathered over the years. And maybe potentially considering another book. My wife's encouraging me to do that, and it's just a long, exhaustive process, and so I have to kind of muster the energy and time to do that. But that's certainly perhaps in the cards down the road. And I'd like to do another TEDx talk, but again, I just haven't had a chance to even think about it because I've been so busy with everything else. But I want to at least reach that triad of TEDx talks, and I have the wonderful Corey to look up to, who's done it a number of times.
Oh, wonderful! I have a couple questions, Laura, for Emilio.
Sure.
Yeah, I love your story, and I love that we all have a story, and I love your energy. I want to come back to your message, and especially, so I feel like you have two messages, but there's the link, the power of obsession and the power of delayed gratification. Let's start with the power of delayed gratification, because in my world, a lot of times when people don't see the results, oftentimes they lose interest, or they start losing faith, or they start losing their obsession with that, or their devotion with that. And of course, we work in different things and alignment and all of that. So I just want to hear a little bit from you. How is that for you? How has that journey been? How did you come up with that message? Or how did that become important to you?
Well, I mean, it's a great question, and as I was kind of alluding to earlier, that it's not that I selected that message. I mean, the message selected me because I was a Cuban immigrant. I was basically forced to have delayed gratification. I didn't know it at the time, right? When I'm growing up, I wasn't saying to myself, "Oh, well, I guess this is what delayed gratification is." No, it was just part of my life, and so I just had to work hard, and I was happy working hard. I mean, it wasn't a chore. I mean, obviously there's always parts when you're working hard that you roll your eyes and think, "Oh man, why are things so difficult?" But overall, it was a happy journey. And then as I got into my career, and things slowly picked up, and it took a number of years till finally things became almost automatic. And so there came a point in my life, in my 50s. I know what you're thinking. 50s? He's 50? Okay, I know.
thought you were 30.
But there came a point in my life where then truly I felt like, hey, I've paid my dues, and I think I deserve now having certain things in my life that some may define as material and really non-important, and that is correct. They are material and non-important, but after half a century of working my butt off, I figured, okay, I could do that, and my wife supported it. I didn't have to. I was shocked at how she supported it, because she saw me work endlessly and tirelessly. The disadvantage to all of this is that my wife and I started our family a little bit later in life. And so I was in my 40s having kids. And so now I'm at the point in my life where I'm starting to gain those gratifications that I had delayed, but my children now are seeing it from a different perspective. For them, they're seeing these things, and so in their mind, they're thinking, "Wow, this is instant gratification for them because they're so young." And so it's a difficult balance, because you're trying to be a role model for your children, while at the same time you have to live your own life, and you want to treat yourself with certain things. If you keep waiting too long until you're in your 60s or 70s or 80s, then you might not live long enough. So So that becomes the challenge. And again, that spurred the book and the talk, because we've had those discussions in our home, and we continue to have them because it's difficult with our teenagers, especially the older teenage boys that we have, that they have a different mindset. In today's mindset, I don't think education is necessarily emphasized enough. I think a lot of teenagers feel like, oh, I don't really need this. College isn't important the way it used to be. I can be successful without college, and clearly you can be, but having a college degree certainly increases your statistical probability of success. That's been shown time and time again. No one can deny that fact. Now, are there super, super successful people in this world who didn't go to college? Oh yeah, 100%. But statistically, that's a much, much smaller percentage. And so we're still struggling with this at home, to be quite frank. And but we're letting our kids, ultimately take responsibility for their own choices, and just try to teach them the best we can, role model the best I can. I'm trying to show them that, look, even at my young age, that I can still work hard at my original profession, while at the same time I'm venturing out doing new things, right? Public speaking, TEDx talks, writing a book. I mean, these are things that if you had asked me 20, 30 years ago, I would have poo-pooed, because just no time. I'm trying to build a profession, a career, a practice. But now I figure, gosh, I got to make the time, because God knows how many years I'm going to be on this earth, and I don't want to waste it.
Yep.
Beautiful. I love all these beautiful messages that are coming through in terms of like being focused on what you want, putting in the work, looking at what can I have now, and what am I still working through, and then kind of managing that as you go along with the resources that you have available. And it sounds like you had less resources that your kids have available, so the way they're thinking about achieving goals is different than when you thought about your own goals. You have a lot of success in your life, and you also have some, you mentioned earlier, failures. And it's when people see the success, sometimes they're like, oh, well, how can I ever get there? Not realizing that there have been different events in your life that helped you evolve, helped you find other resources, helped you overcome and become who you needed to be to get there. Can you share a little bit about those lessons in your life, those things that maybe didn't go so well in your life that actually help you be who you are, get here, be who you are today?
Sure. Well, the first thing I would say, before directly answering that, is that I was writing an article for a magazine, and one of the questions had to do with who is your biggest mentor in your life. And I've never really had what I would call a professional mentor, but my mentor truly was my father, who passed away many years ago. He passed away at a relatively young age, but um, and he was just my mentor, simply as a role model, as an example. He didn't necessarily sit me down and give me a laundry list of life principles, but he was one, unlike my mother, who had a formal education, as I mentioned, in Cuba, and she had her doctorate. My father did not have a formal education. He left Spain during after the Spanish Civil War, went to Cuba, and then started a little shoe business. And so I saw in my father the fact that he was always very positive. He was always very loving and jovial, and he worked his butt off. I mean, he was up at 4 a.m. every day. I mean, every day, and going to work, and on the weekends working around the house, doing everything. And my mother was a super hard worker as well. Don't get me wrong, but being a father figure, it really always just played a role in seeing how persevering he was, how loving he was. I mean, what a loving man he was. And so anyhow, so that kind of set the stage. As far as failures, I mean, there have been many failures. But the one that really hits home is that, and I'm almost embarrassed to talk about it, but it's in my book, so it'll be public sooner or later. That probably about 15 to maybe 20 years ago, probably getting closer to 20 years ago. At least in the United States, I don't know about Canada, Laura, but in the United States, there was the big real estate boom, where prices of real estate were really increasing. Everyone was jumping on this bandwagon of buying single family homes and then renting them and all this. And I got sucked into this by going to a seminar where they were teaching this, and of course for their own reasons, where they made money. And my wife really did not want to get involved with this, but I said, oh no, we got to do it. We got to do it. And back then, obtaining mortgages on real estate was, you just signed off. You signed. You didn't have to show anything. You didn't have to show assets or anything. And within 1 year, I accumulated over 20 rental properties. Okay, if that isn't crazy.
Wow.
And I don't know what I was thinking. My wife was saying, oh, what a mistake you're making. Don't do it. And I did it. And it was right at the peak of the real estate market. So all of a sudden, the prices are out of control. I bought in at these super high prices, and I've put little to no money down. I mean, the most I ever put down on any home was 5%, the most. And so basically, you can't keep that going, because the rent that you're getting on a property that you're paying a 95% mortgage on is far lower than what you're putting out in the mortgage payment. So I kept that going for as long as I could before if I had kept going, it would have sent me into bankruptcy. And I finally had to just throw in the cards, throw in the chips, and I bailed. And it was just humiliating, and what a terrible experience. And yet through it all, my wife only once or twice just kindly said, well, remember I told you this wasn't a good idea, but she didn't rub my nose in it. She just said, okay, we have a problem. These are the lemons that are being dealt. We've got to make lemonade. And so little by little, she gave me positive reinforcement. She assisted me along the way. We slowly dug out of that hole. I developed, unfortunately, a bad taste for real estate because of my poor decisions, because they were my poor decisions. It wasn't like the universe was against me. It was just bad decisions that it was the one time for sure that I abandoned my underlying principle of delayed gratification, because I became greedy and I wanted the instant gratification. And that's what sucked me in. And had I not gone to that seminar, that was the turning point. I somehow mentally, I got sucked in, and by going to that seminar, and basically that's what changed things. But we made lemonade out of it. We got beyond that, and it became a new day. I refocused my energies on the practice, and the rest is history. And since that time, the practice actually became more successful than ever, because I was no longer sidetracked mentally with these other things. So that was my probably my number one biggest failure.
Good. Thank you so much, Emilio. I just want to make sure that before we end the interview, that we get a chance to know, where can we find you and what is your favorite way to communicate?
Oh, sure. Thank you, Laura. So I have a personal website unrelated to my practice. My personal website is DrEmilioJusto.com, which is DrEmilioJusto.com, DrEmilioJusto.com. And on there's a contact page. And if you just put in your name and email, that comes directly to me. Be happy to communicate with anyone via email, cell phone. I'm happy to share my information once you contact me. So I'm open to the universe. So you are not going to get any assistant or anyone. You'll get me.
Nice.
And again, please don't forget the power
There you go.
the power of pause, mastering delayed gratification for success.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So I also like to hold space at the end of the interview, but we only have about 30 seconds or so. Is there something that you just need people to take away from this conversation today?
Yeah, I think that the number one thing is to have a positive outlook. Never, never, ever, ever give up. Embrace your failures, learn from them, persevere. Again, be resilient. I was just at the car wash the other day, and I've had these discussions before with other workers there, but there was this young man there, probably 20, 22, and he was drying off my car. And I have, I won't tell you what kind of car, but because again, it would not sound very humble, but it's a very, very, very fancy car. And he looked over at me and he said, "Hey, is this your car?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Wow, can I ask, what do you do?" And I told him, and I said, what can I do to someday get a car like that? And I looked at him, and I could tell that he was really sincere in his question. And I started telling him the same thing I'm telling your audience. I said, you gotta work hard, you gotta persevere, you've got to believe in yourself, you've got to embrace failure. And I looked at him with a chuckle, and I said, "And look, you got to read my book that's coming out soon." And because I'm giving you, at least for myself, I'm giving you my life's secrets of my own success, and maybe you can use it for your success. And I really wanted to bring him home with me, because he was like another son who really was showing a sincere interest, and it wasn't just a gawker. I mean, I get a lot of gawkers driving down the road, but I could tell that he was just sincerely wanting to know what the keys are to his future. And I want to help people create their future, create a positive future. That's really kind of my mission at this point in my life.
Thank you so much for being here, Emilio. We really appreciated spending this time with you. We do have to say goodbye, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Maria. Appreciate you both. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And our next guest is backstage. Just give me a thumbs up if you're ready to come on camera. Awesome. Welcome, Wendy. I'm just going to shrink a bit. And while I'm shrinking, I'm basically going to share that I like to shake up the beginning of our conversation.
Okay.
Because we always get those elevator pitches and they're the same thing over and over. And you're like, I've heard it so many times.
Yep.
I don't want to hear anymore. So one of my favorite things to do is to ask a question that'll just shake up your mind.
Okay.
So if you're ready for it, I'm going to grab my piece of paper.
I'm standing, so hopefully I didn't need to sit for the question.
Probably not. I think you'll be okay. I know you. You're good.
Yeah.
So Wendy, if you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
Innovative, disruptive, and a connector.
I can vouch for all 3 of those.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Connector. Because lucky me, I get to meet you in person because we're actually both from Nova Scotia.
Exactly.
Yay. So Wendy, I like to know these 3 words because what you'll find is as you start sharing your message and a little bit about who you are and your skills and all of that wonderfulness, we're going to see these words
Mm,
weaved into everything that you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah. But I got those words out of you before you got to say all the things. So
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
you said innovative, disruptive, and connector.
Mm.
So can you tell us how those 3 words play a role in the message that you share with people?
Absolutely. Well, I start off with, I think my unique ability is connecting dots and people.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I see patterns, I see things, and that's when I come up with different ways of actually delivering the services that I have, right? So I'm a financial planner, certified financial planner. I'm also a certified business value builder, and I have other designations, other degrees, all that kind of stuff. But when it really comes down to it, what I love to do is help business owners and entrepreneurs with 4 things. I like them to help them with the value of their business, like making it an asset that can be sold at some point and have value.
Mhm.
I like to work with them on their personal wealth.
Ooh.
I like to work with them on their freedom.
Ooh.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And those are, and legacy. The final word is legacy. And all of those really overlap and have value to each other. And, you know, they play in each other's things. But I feel like all of those things together can really help people live their ideal life and a fully funded ideal life and increase their impact in the world.
Okay. I'm going to get personal here.
Yeah.
Emilio was talking about legacy and he brought that up, but legacy for me has always been that sticking point. Like I don't really, like I know what it is, but I don't know what it is. And people tell me I should care about it, but I don't really care about it. So,
Right.
Can you just give us some sort of insight?
I think that there's this traditional
Yeah.
way of looking at legacy. What's in your will? You've passed on. What did you leave behind in terms of money, family, etc., right?
Yeah.
Maybe you donated to a cause and now you have a building named after you. Who knows, right? So that's your traditional legacy. I like to look at it from the point of view of a business owner, is when we start a business, we have our why, right? So we do the Simon Sinek thing and we figure out this is our why, right?
Yeah.
So that becomes a bit of our purpose, right? That's our purpose. Then we wandered over to Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, and we say, what's our BHAG, our big, hairy, audacious goal,
Yes.
right? And that becomes our impact, all right? So when you marry those 2 things together, we can start coming up with, the result of that can be part of your legacy. So I think of legacy in a bunch of different ways. One is the lives I've changed and affected. Well, that change can continue and grow and affects more people. So there's like a ripple effect on that side. If I've done my work right and people are growing their business, there's employees that are being affected, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their lives are changing because of the corporate culture you've built and, you know, just the magic you've given them as well. And then thirdly, if we look at all the stuff we've developed, our unique methodology, the way we approach things with our clients, the books we've written, the podcasts we've done, the TED Talks or Blue Talks we've done, all of those things are part of our legacy as well. Now, if you want to grow that legacy even more, the business you've created to do all those things, you want to make so that it can be sellable or transitioned to employees or to your family or what have you, so that the mission can live on, right?
Yeah.
If we look at Stephen Covey, he's passed away, but yet his message, his son's working in a company and they're still teaching people the 7 habits of highly effective people, right? So that legacy is continuing to grow. So I am looking at legacy from a slightly different angle.
I do like that. That's something that I feel more connected to than I want a building named after me. I'm like, why? Why would I not a building named after me?
Well, maybe it's a super cool building, Laura. I don't know, but you know.
Well, I mean, all the ones that I've designed have other people's names on them. So
Mm-hmm.
or they're fire stations or something where you can have a name on it.
Yeah. So if we look at legacy is our purpose and our impact married together and then living out beyond us.
When you mentioned Simon Sinek, I got all excited and I reached over there because one of the first times I was on stage, actually the first time that I spoke on stage was actually at an event. I was an attendee, and then the speaker there who was speaking to teach Simon Sinek Start With Why, he'd lost his voice.
Oh no.
I know. So he's asking everybody in the audience, like, who knows this? Who knows it well enough to teach it? My hand was the only hand up in about a crowd of 50. So at this great big entrepreneurial conference in Toronto, I go up to the front of the room after just watching the TED Talk and I teach the first 20 minutes. So he gives me this little coin.
Yeah.
The light kind of makes it
It's
harder.
very shiny. Yeah.
It's started-
It's got the bullseye.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then on the back, there's this fire.
Oh.
And so every time I think of it, and I put it right next to me because it's so inspirational, that start with why is that fire within. And I love how we get to see your fire within. And when you talk about legacy, that's the way you want people to feel about it, is what's that fire that gets things started to create that light that just keeps on burning.
Right. Yeah. So that's the business owner side. But you mean from the personal side, how do you want to set your kids up? How do you want to help other things? That's all important too. But those all fit together. Yeah. And the more you build your company legacy, the more you can amplify your legacy elsewhere too.
Yeah. We actually had that talk with my daughter.
Nice.
My husband and I both grew up poor. And now we live in our first house.
Nice.
Together. And we sat her down probably a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. And we're like, look, she did this quiz at school. It's like, how much privilege do you have? And we all took it. She shared every question with us. And she realized that her being a city kid, moved to the country, has a lot more privilege than her parents ever did. And we're all technically white. And we're like, but do you see the difference in generations? And also, do you see the difference between country living and city living? So now that we have this house, we're like, look, you are so much better off than we ever were.
Right.
This is our legacy. I think that was the only time we ever used that word for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that we're starting that conversation young.
Perfect. Yeah. The younger, I think it is important to talk about legacy and privilege, but also about money. Let's take all that emotion out of it, make it a tool, which it's meant to be. Right. Yeah. And so part of that hard part is you're bringing a money story to the table. Your husband's bringing a money story to the table. Your parents are all there. And it's kind of like being aware enough of the money stories in your mind, and then discerning which ones do I still want to have working in my life and which ones do I want to pass down to my daughter, and having a deliberate, intentional work around that.
Oh, yeah, the answer is none. All of that.
Now you will. So you'll start thinking about it.
Oh, yeah. There was a couple conversations several years ago, right after I had lost my job in architecture, where I was learning about money. And I think my first learning about money was with you when I met you at networking events and different events going on in the city, where I started saying things that didn't match with what my husband was saying. Right. And my daughter brought it up. She's like, but why are you saying this and Dad's saying this? So then I told her, well, here is why I'm saying this and my experience around that. And here's why Dad is saying this and his experience around that. I'm not asking you to choose anybody. I'm asking you to gather your own information, make your own decisions based on your experience and education. So keep learning.
Yeah.
And then hopefully you'll be better than both of us. That's our goal.
Perfect. And adding an element of intentionality in there in terms of, what you're modeling, because, whether you were taught about money or not, you were. Through the modeling of your parents, what they not mainly not what they said, but what they did, right? We're all people who had money bad. Did money not grow on trees? You have to work super hard, or we can't afford any of that. You know what I mean? Those are messages that are imprinted, and what you say for your daughter are going to be imprinted on her.
I didn't realize how much of a difference there was between us and a couple friends. Last year we moved 4 times in 5 months, and we moved in with a couple friend of ours. The gentleman had put a knife in the dishwasher that still had peanut butter on it. And my husband and I were like, what did you, no, you lick that off before you put it in there. You don't waste that peanut butter. And then it was actually this wonderful opportunity to have that conversation around money. We're like, we know which one of us grew up with money and which ones didn't.
Yeah. Well, there's 3 questions I encourage people to talk through. And those 3 questions are: 1, what is your first memory of money? And I ask people to identify that. What was your first memory of money, Laura?
I don't know.
Ooh. Maria, does anything come up for you?
Oh, I have lots of memories of money. This is actually part of what I do for my work.
Oh, nice. Good.
Building. Yeah.
That's great.
I completely understand the relationship with money and uh, sort of the story that we create about money and how we relate to it,
Yeah.
whether we move away from it or we move toward it. So I love what you're talking about because it's so important. And what I've seen in my work in relationship to wealth building is that a lot of people don't do it, especially if they came from not having, if they came from, and I have stories like that where, you know, one side of my family had and the other one didn't. And then they came together and they didn't have, and then they had to create, and then there was lost and they had to create it again. So all these little things that we have in our life get imprinted, and then we develop an own relationship. And then I can see even my own sort of track where I also create a portfolio of real estate, and then, you know, I had to make decisions about it, other investments and stuff like that. And then working through all of that, like recognizing that story, recognizing those belief systems, and recreating in a way that works for me, recreating in a way and really loving it, like being a good steward of money, loving creating, you know, creating the material, and then, you know, the generational wealth, the legacy wealth. I love that. And that's you know, still something that I'm working on because my kids are still young. But I love this whole conversation because I feel it's so important. I feel like we should all like embrace it and love creating, love building wealth, and love having it and being supported by it, and creating not just for the now, but for the generations to come. Like we have that ability. Like we can be open to it. Yeah.
And I feel like the whole messages are kind of running along on our subconscious. I think of it as a little bit like with computers, the Intel chip is inside, but we never see it, but we know the computer works, and that's kind of our subconscious is dealing with that. So to me, it's like, how can we surface some of those things and then almost like dispassionately to some level go, how has it served me? How is it not serving me anymore? What parts would I like to keep of this? What parts would I like to let go? So that you're at least aware, because I think right now so many people are making decisions, and really big ones sometimes, with that intel inside, not even knowing that there's bias and a bunch of other things going on that could be, they're not being as logical as they think they are.
I love the questions that you ask at the beginning, you know, and I like to ask another question, you know, if you can have it all, what would that look like? Because then we're not limited by anything. And then we can start working toward that happiness, that living it. And then you can identify, you know, you can identify those blocks about money or those limitations and set points around money. And then we can easily work through them because they're really not real, right? It's something that we thought was, and we made it our truth. But we have that reset. We can reset that programming into something that is very open, very abundant, very prosperous.
I remember my first memory is more like a series of memories. It was a pattern. So the pattern was, you can't have that. We can't afford it. Put it back. Just as a constant growing up. Even from Santa Claus, it was like, no, Santa Claus isn't bringing you that. I remember I wanted a light bright way back in like 89 or 90 or whatever it was when I was young. I was 12 or 13. I kept asking every year. So I was like 12 or 13 before I finally got my light bright. And Mom was like, you'll never use it. I was like, yes, I will. I used it for about 4 years. Loved it. Yeah.
Cool. That's so cool. My other two questions are, what is something that your parents did with money that you don't want to repeat? And what is something your parents did with money that you would like to repeat? As other ways to dig up some of the programming.
Yep. I do not want to repeat my dad being a smoker and spending all this money on something that we don't need.
Right.
Or bad habits like that, or gambling, or taking taxis when you don't need to. He was a taxi driver, so
there you go.
Thankfully, we got free taxis sometimes, but
yeah.
And what would I like to do? I liked that my parents did a lot of things on their own. And so they taught me a lot of skills that I never would have gotten, even if I was somebody else's family in the country. So I know how to cook and sew and build my own things and all these skills that are not taught in schools the way that they used to be. Like, but I know how to do that. Like I fixed my washing machine 4 times. I don't have training in that. I just grew up with a broken washing machine that we had to fix.
Yeah.
Right.
And YouTube.
YouTube's helpful too. Now that there's so many models and they're not all the same. Yeah. We actually got my daughter to change her first tire about a month ago. So I filmed it so I could give it to her. So congratulations. You don't have to do it more than once, but at least you did it the first time.
Yes. And now the how-to is caught on tape.
Exactly. So I like these questions. Do you have any more of these awareness questions? Because it gets our audience to practice as well and maybe come up with that identifier.
Well, a couple other questions I ask in my kind of discovery sessions when we're going a little deeper on some of the more qualitative side. I also ask things like, how much money needs to be in your bank account for you to feel safe?
Oh.
Right? Because that number, we got to work with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people don't need a lot. Some people want 100 grand. You know, it's so variable and there's no right answer. There isn't, because it's all about a person. And the interesting thing is I've worked with some clients who, you know, their idea of financial success when we started was there was room in a line of credit to, hey, we have 4 or 5 grand sitting in our bank account and that's my new safety number. Is kind of an interesting evolution in terms of, you know, that. I also ask people what freedom means to them, and you can tell a lot about their situation by how they answer that. And it's all around the freedom from versus freedom to. So if someone talks to me about freedom from this, freedom from that, I can tell that their concerns of today are very, very high. And we're going to need to deal with those before we can start thinking about the future, which is more the freedom to do stuff, right? Yeah. And my final question that sometimes trips people up as we go, I ask them about, I say, listen, together, because it's a collaborative process, we're going to come up with the perfect plan and it works. What will keep you from successfully implementing that plan? So that people are already starting to identify where they may self-sabotage so that we can start to build the boundaries or at least be aware of that. Because if they're aware of that behavior, when it starts to show up, they can recognize, oh, this one's going to take me outside and maybe I don't want to do that.
Not on the financial side, more on the nutrition side. There's a lot going on with my body at the moment, hence having some hard time sitting and standing and all of that. But one of my next steps is I want to go back to trying the elimination diet. Right. I know that certain foods are causing inflammation and making my pain and situation worse. So this is the best way for me to know exactly how things affect me. Yeah. But it takes a lot of energy to do that. And that's the exact question I've been asking myself. What's going to derail me? How can I plan for that now so that I can make this process a little easier and so I stick to it?
Yeah. Well, I have, when we put a plan together for people, it's pretty detailed, especially we've got a personal spending plan. We've got the safety net built. We've got future savings, and we've also got debt reduction. But then when it comes to the spending plan, I don't like it to be like so rigid you can't do anything, right? So we give them a number that lasts, it's going to cover all the discretionary spending for the week. And I tell them there's going to be times you're going to go over, and that's okay, but I want you to be conscious of it, and I want you to ask 3 questions of yourself before you pull that trigger. 1, is it worth it? 2, do I need to do it now? And 3, am I doing it for the right reasons? Right? Because sometimes that you're trying to compensate for something or whatever might be a reason that you're making a purchasing decision. And the example I use for this is back in 2019, pre-COVID, so it only feels like a couple years ago, my husband and I were in Toronto, or I was in Toronto, he was coming up to join me. And he goes, hey, Wendy, do you want to go to a Raptors game? And I'm like, well, that's not in the plan, but it's playoffs. So sure, let's do it, right? Because it was going to be worth it. I've never been to a Raptors game. It's playoffs, and, do I have to do it now? Well, yes, because this is the only game, right? And 3, am I doing it for the right reasons, right? So I was doing it for an experience, not for anything else. And so we went, and even though the beers were $17 each, they were tremendous.
Yeah.
And we saw them win the East. Like, the atmosphere, the energy in that stadium was off the charts. Like, I had such a good time. It was worth every penny. So I went over my line, and then we just compensated later. But we consciously did it. We didn't get to the end of the month and go, oh my God, what happened? No, we made a choice.
Yeah. I remember going to the food bank for probably 3 years straight.
Yeah.
And during that time, I had to make a lot of decisions like that.
Yes.
Of I only have X amount of dollars per week to spend on groceries. Otherwise, we can't afford rent.
Right.
Right. Even with the food bank. So then there are weeks where meat would be on sale, and I would always shop at the time of day where it was discount.
7 a.m. maybe.
Oh yeah, like early morning on a Saturday.
We're still doing that just because it's worth. That's a get 50% off meat. It's worth getting up early.
Exactly. So I'm like, okay, the meat's on sale and 50% off. There's no way I can't spend more this week.
Yeah.
It just means we spend that much less next week, but we don't have to buy regular price meat. So
Right.
it's like so.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But I also only had so much room in my fridge freezer. So you're kind of balancing all of that out.
That's cool.
So Wendy, I want to talk about the ways that you like to share your message, as it just said 1 hour, 11 minutes and 11 seconds. That was fun. You said that, well, obviously you like to speak and be on podcasts.
Yeah.
You mentioned a book. What drove you to writing and speaking? Was that always a part of who you were, or something?
I think so. I've always liked, I have no issues with getting up in front of people and talking. So the starting of the podcast for me was kind of like today, right? I love hearing people's stories, in particular entrepreneurial journeys. Like, how did you end up owning a business, and why did you choose that one? What have you learned along the way? Like, everybody has like 1 or 2 nuggets that are just so good. And then I want to understand your technical expertise, right? So if you are, I don't know, a social media person, tell me about that. What should our listeners be thinking about with their social media strategy and their postings and things like that, right? So there's those pieces. And we've got kind of a workshop that we've put together for people as well that we'll do. But, it's so multi-focused. Although from a social media perspective, I have taken up monogamy as much as I possibly can with LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting to look at all the other channels, but I feel like that one channel and going all in on it is my strategy, because that's what I can handle at this point.
But why LinkedIn? Why not Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, all the other?
Right. Well, I chose it because my clients are typically entrepreneurs or business owners. And so that's kind of the LinkedIn market, is trying to find, other business owners and people like that. It seems to be a place to go for quality information and things of that nature. So that's why I've chosen it. Doesn't mean we don't post on the other sites, because I have a guy who does that. But in terms of my attention, that's where we're trying to max it out.
Well, that's why I want to know, because Wendy, you're not suited for every single way that you can share your message. You've chosen the ones that align with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are there any ways of sharing your message, more artsy or more technical, that you feel don't align with you and that you haven't done it?
I haven't figured out how to do a dance about money yet, but I don't think that's necessary. Oh, there you go. You got it. It has to also kind of align with how I want to present myself, right? So I like to have fun with finance, but at the same time, I know it's a serious subject. So it's balancing those two pieces out. And I think I can do that more on the LinkedIn side, for me anyway, right? And I know it's terrible, but I just can't get past all the TikTok stuff with China and stuff. I finally drew a line with where my information's going.
Yeah. That's why I told my daughter, I was like, no. I'm like, you can download all the other apps if you want, but no.
Yeah.
conversation around privacy is a difficult one when you have younger kids who have grown up with the internet, and we didn't. We had to learn it all as we went, but like they're just not familiar because they're used to their whole life being around the internet. It's kind of weird. But I do like that you brought up the funniness of dancing. There's just so many trends, and I'm like, but who is Wendy? How does Wendy like to show up? I don't want Wendy to show up like Maria, and I don't want her to show up like me, and I don't want Maria to show up like we're us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd like to do a money dance. That would be hilarious. Was there anything that you were talking about learning lessons along the way? I forget the exact words that you used.
From when I interview people, and I have, after 18, 20 years in business, there's a raft of mistakes in my rearview mirror, but I look at them as teaching points now, right? So, hey, this happened to me. Here's how you can avoid that. And if I can keep one person from making that same mistake, then it wasn't a mistake, right? It's a teaching point in anything else. Yeah. So I love being able to share that story with people.
Was there ever, of course, there's a time that you made mistakes, but I guess, what is the pattern between the people that come to you for help and support that maybe you could share like a couple insights to just speak to those patterns?
So the pattern would be, I think, when you're working your business, especially the first couple of years, you're just all in on getting it working, right? And there comes this point where all of a sudden everything does come together. There's profit that's coming up, and it's like, okay, now I can lift my head up and I can start thinking about, well, what should I do with my profit? What's the best way to deploy that? How do I use this? Do I put it back in my business? Do I buy real estate? What should I be doing, right? And the other piece that I like helping people with is this almost figuring out the art and science of your business model, in the sense of what does your business need to do to fund the perfect life and to build enough money for the future, right? And so when we look at all of those pieces, I like to look at, hey, here's your whole cost structures, here's your products. We break them down, and I look at those things in 3 different ways to help decide where do you focus. And that would be on what is the contribution of each of, if you sell that product, how much money is coming into your business after expenses. 2, what is your capacity? So if you're on your own or you have a team even, how many can you sell? How many can you deliver appropriately? And the third metric, which is super hard to put a number to, is joy. Because there's no sense in having the product that has the best margin and the best whatever be the one you hate doing. Where's the fun in that? So we're trying to figure that out. And if the one that is the most joyous, you've underpriced or it's not positioned correctly, or you're not making enough money, well, what does it need to make? How do you deliver that in a way that sustains you? And so then what we can do is break it down, right? So you have package A. It's the one that we're going to focus on. You need to sell 4 of those every month. And then your business is funded and your life is funded. Everything else becomes extra. So that when this hustle and grind culture, you kind of know, okay, I'm here. I hit the number I need to. Everything else I maybe can take my foot off the gas a little and know I'm banking for the next month type of stuff. So I find that's helpful. And from the personal wealth building and everything else, I love helping figure out what I call the power number. And that number is, where is the power of choice? Like, if I have this many assets and I want this type of life after work, when do you become fully funded? When does that number hit? Because then everything else you're doing from that point on is gravy as well for your whole life. So that really, really helps.
Yeah. I had to stop my business for a while because of my health and because of the constant moves last year.
Yeah.
So like life goes up and down. So when I'm on, I feel myself go all in. But then when I go all in, it also drains me.
Yeah.
But then there's weeks like this, which make me physically sore, but spiritually and soulfully, like these kinds of conversations just feed me.
Yeah.
And what's the word? Not boost the fire, but stoke. There we go. They stoke the fire.
Right.
within me.
Yeah. And you have to build that in. And if you're always hustling and grinding, it's harder to have these moments and then engage in them in a way that's soulful when you're just thinking about, oh my God, I got to sell something else. I got to deliver that. I got to go do this, right? The to-do list can kill you.
Yeah.
Somebody had mentioned having a to-done list. I think it was Deborah. She's like, I don't bother writing down all the things I need to do. I'll just write down the things I've already done and then have that feel good of checking.
Right.
Yeah, I've already done that and that.
Yes, there's something rewarding about the check marks, isn't there?
Sometimes I was joking with her. I'm like, sometimes at the top of my to-do list, I'll write the to-do list so that as soon as I'm done, I have something to check.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Oh, and one of the other things I like to focus on too is, and the reason I went and got my certification in business value building was a lot of entrepreneurs at some point along the journey, their business can become their largest asset, right? Number one. And number two, we don't even know what it's worth. And we don't know how to make it worth even more so that someone else might want to buy it down the road. And so to me, that training really helped codify some of the things I knew and provided me a platform with which to deliver trainings and programs and things so that people, entrepreneurs, can really learn the lenses through which they can look at their business. And as they're developing their business, option A, B, or C, which one adds profit, which one adds revenue, and which one, the trifecta increases the value of my business, right? So you want that trifecta when you're
there are
doing
a lot of people watching that want to become speakers and want to become authors, and they're kind of dipping their toe into entrepreneurship and solopreneurship.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of insight for them, of those people just getting started, to get them that financial boost right at the beginning so they can do the things that we all know that they need to do?
I think really understand the value you bring to the table, and please do not undercut it. I feel like a lot of times when we start out, we're just so happy someone's going to buy something that we're not necessarily pricing it appropriately. And there's also, depending on our money stories, no one's going to pay that. That's self-reference criteria, right? But you don't know if you can change this in someone's life, what the value of that is to them, right? So make sure you do as much conversations to understand the pain point, or what the challenge you're solving, and what is the value of that, and what are people willing to pay for it. And I think that we go into that sometimes on tiptoe versus being strong and confident because you've done that work to understand who you're serving, how you're going to serve them, what the value of that is.
That's a hard step for people.
Oh, it is.
I remember it took me 5 years, I think, in my business to start getting clients and making a profit. But then life happened, so I had to take a year and a half off my business. Then I came back, and then I had to leave. It's like, I find consistency has been one of my biggest struggling points. So do you have any advice on the consistency so that you stay in that realm of safety that you mentioned earlier?
It's, to some degree, it feels like, I don't want to say moderate expectations, but one of the great quotes I love about Dan Sullivan, he started Strategic Coach, and I did that coaching program for like almost 10 years. And one of the things he says is, there's no such thing as an impossible goal. It's an impossible timeline, right? So when you think of it from that perspective, whenever I'm doing any type of trainings and stuff, and we end up putting our action list together, I'm like, what's your 30, 60, 90 day? What are you doing when? And then I said, okay, now go back and remove half of the things you put in the 30 day, at least. Because you know what we do? We put, 2/3 to 80% of what we want to do in the next 90 days in the first 30. Like, that's just not realistic. So pulling it back and being kind around that stuff doesn't mean you can have to take away your urgency. I just think you need to be cognizant that things do take a little bit of time, and you need to give yourself that space to not go full out all the time.
I appreciate that you call that out. I saw that, Maria. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something since we're talking about wealth. I like to think about wealth in other areas of our life, like our health, and having that balance in our health, in our relationship, in our parenting, and in our own, like the time that we take for ourselves. So I think all of that supports our success and supports what we're up to. And then just being kind to our body, being kind to what we're doing, and creating that balance. And sometimes it's difficult to have that balance when we have so many things that we're juggling, but being mindful of first of all where we're coming from, if we're over giving or overstretching ourselves, and being okay with the timing, divine timing of what we're doing, and holding that space for abundant flow in every area of our life, for coming from wealth in every area of our life. So it feels like we're still nurturing ourselves when we're working really hard. It still feels like we're nurturing ourselves when we're giving to whatever is asking of our time and our attention and our energy. Yeah, so it's a beautiful conversation.
I'd love to know, Wendy, since we're coming to the close of our interview. I love spending time with you, fellow redhead, automatic. Okay.
Ginger talks.
I know, right? Oh, we should just start another podcast. What is your favorite way to communicate? I think that's LinkedIn, since you mentioned it earlier. But then also, where can we find you?
Sure. So you can find me on LinkedIn under Wendy Brookhouse. And my website is blackstarwealth.com. So you can reach me there. And those are probably and you could also check out my podcast called The Real Bottom Line, where we talk to other entrepreneurs. So those are kind of 3 ways you can reach out and see what's going on in my world.
Thanks. And then I like to hold space at the end of an interview to just make sure that whatever was in your heart or on your mind came out. So if there's something that you needed people to take away from this conversation, what might that be?
There's this this attitude, I think, around how people feel about money. So there's shame, there's shoulds. I should have done this. I should be here. I should be whatever. Mm-hmm. And so what I find is that sometimes people postpone going to see an expert like me because they want to fix it first, versus, coming into an expert who can probably take a look and go, and it's done, right? So like that's the benefit. And a professional will be non-judgmental and just accept where you are, and let's build from there. I think of it a little bit like, why is it if I broke my arm, I will go immediately to a doctor as opposed to wait until it gets better before I go see the doctor? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because
so that's kind of how I look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, finances is one of those topics that is taboo still.
Yeah.
And yet that's what I wanted to mention earlier. I may have to come back to you. Okay. Our next guest will be here soon. Oh, there we go. Can you put in the comments somewhere, just after you think about it, some of those times, like, what do you do to help people talk about the hard things, the taboo topics? I know that we're out of time now, but that's the kind of thing I would love to talk about with you in the future. So
perfect.
I appreciate you so much for this. We've had such a wonderful time. You'll have to come back. That's all.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, ladies. Have a wonderful day.
Bye, Wendy.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Our next guest is behind the scenes. Devices not connected. Uh-oh. That's okay. We'll make it work. That was fun.
That was.
Yeah. Amy, just give me a thumbs up if you're ready. Yeah. Tech issues happen. No worries. Okay. There's a sign in the back. What does it say?
It says family, health, contribution, and legacy. Those are my 4 core values.
Talking about synchronicity yesterday. That's exactly what we just talked about with Wendy.
Oh.
So I love that. I love it so much. Amy, you look different today?
Thank
Did you get your haircut?
No, I straightened it.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. Okay. So I like to start the conversation off just by shaking up the ideas of what we come into an interview with. And usually it's the elevator pitch. So we're going to have some fun. And I'm going to ask you my opening question, which is also research. So the question is this: if you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
Empathetic, kind,
Uh-huh.
and enthusiastic.
Enthusiastic. There we go. So then what does being empathetic, kind, and enthusiastic, what does that have to do with the message that you have?
So empathy is a big part of what I do every day, and within my coaching clients, especially with the message that I have, I really think that it's about encouraging others to be empathetic with themselves. We talk a lot about being empathetic to others, but very rarely do we hear that as something that we direct inside. And so many times I'm hearing people beating themselves up. We know that this is a huge challenge in our world, beating ourselves up, getting stuck in these mind traps. And if we could have a little bit more empathy for ourselves, I think that things would be very different. And that kind of leads into being kind, that similarly, that we're being kind to others, that we are not, that we are, living the rule of treat others the way we want to be treated, but also, Corey talks about this in the next book, treating others the way they want to be treated, but being kind, right? Showing that smile more often, showing that heart-centered approach more often leads to better outcomes for all, right? And then enthusiastic, I know that my cells kind of scream enthusiasm out, like it's inside out for me.
Yeah.
So I aim to be myself, to show up as myself, and to have people feel that energy of enthusiasm pouring out of me and into them whenever I'm talking about anything. So I was at an event this week, and part of that is the goal, is spreading that feeling, that vibration, because I believe that when people have that for whatever it is they're working on in their lives, that they then have that kind of fire, that juice inside of them to go after that change that they're mission for.
Now I'm picturing us all at a table and we start the drum roll, da, 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 and then we just kind of like build it all together. How much fun would that be?
Oh, it's so fun. I had people do the wave at one of my previous events because I was like, let's do this, right? And I'm like, and I'm running up and down, and it was so fun. I like getting people out of the box a little.
Let's do it then. I'm going to start, and then because Maria's on that side, and then we'll just go in a circle. Are you ready?
Yes, let's do it.
Ready? Go, Maria. There we go. That was a lot of fun. Spur of the moment stuff. I love getting the audience involved. Okay, ready, audience? Go, audience, go. Great. See, now our energy is up. We can't help but laugh and smile. Great.
Yes.
Then I also see that it says executive coach and TEDx speaker. We had another TEDx speaker today too. Tell us how you got into, or I guess on that stage.
The long story or the short story?
Whatever you want to share. We'll make
You
it
know
work.
what? I feel aligned to share this message here in the Blue Talk space. I had been thinking about it for a long time, and like many of us do, there's the doubt and the concern, right? Of will I be enough? Yada yada, right? And our amazing friend Corey Poirier posted last year that he had landed his 4th talk, and I went, well, geez, Louise, and those aren't my words, but I said some kind of words like, geez, Louise, if Corey can do it, so can I. And so that really was the inspiration and catalyst and the fire and fuel for me to work even harder to get those applications out there. And I was blessed to be selected for one last October. And because it was so important to me to show up in my best possible way, I put a crazy amount of hours into preparing for it. And I feel like I honored myself in the topic that I chose and the message that I delivered. In really, I wanted to talk about helping people to see that they're enough. And so I told a very powerful story that led into that message. And since that, I feel grateful because other people are allowing me to share that message now on their stages. And it is, in fact, having the ripple effect that I am aiming for it to have and dreaming that it will have, for more people to really take a moment and see that they are enough.
I'm on YouTube right now trying to look up your video because you said helping people feel like they're enough.
Yeah.
I think it was yesterday that I had shared, maybe the day before, that right before all of this crap had happened with my body, I was on the couch for a whole month. I couldn't really walk around the house, like bathroom, maybe food. That was about it. And that even took a while. Heidi had me on the phone for almost an hour one day. And I didn't want to be on the phone, but I knew that I needed to be on the phone. So that was where our conversation had gone. Like, I have confidence. I'm really confident in my skills, but it was the value of my beingness that is kind of like, "Grr." So when you said feeling like enough, I'm just going to go watch Amy's TED Talk
Please do.
and share Amy's TED Talk. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that time where you had to learn that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So in the TEDx, I talk about a moment in time in my life where I sabotaged myself because of we call them thinking traps, mind traps, negative thinking, whatever. But it really was at the core of it was that I didn't believe I was enough. Yeah. And so that moment in time, I was at a leadership training event.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do, the format of the TEDx starts kind of in the middle to, get people really into the moment. But essentially what happened is we were doing this activity and I mostly knew the answer. Like in my head, I was like, I know the answer. I've done this. But a lot of the negative thinking was like, oh, you're forgetting it. No, you can't be right. Don't speak up. If you're wrong, they'll hate you. Like all of these negative thinking things saying like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And frustratingly, I didn't listen, or I listened to the voice and I didn't step up in the way that I could. And into that debrief session, the instructor thankfully called me out on the baloney. And that was a very hard moment for me. I'm quite an empathic and emotional human. And so I was like bawling my eyes out, and it was a moment, but a huge moment for me for growth, because it was like a smack in the face of, I don't want another thing like this to happen again, where my negative thinking stops me. And really it was, as I said, my belief that I was not enough compared to that particular group of people that I was with in that moment, that I was seeing myself as unworthy and not enough because of external things that I felt about this group of people. And no more. And like kind of the next phase of this, which I don't talk about in the TEDx, because quite honestly, you only get 18 minutes. So you know what I mean? But the next phase of this is that a few months later, let's say 6 to 8 months later, I was almost in the exact same situation again. Okay. Where I was at a different leadership event that I had earned to be there, because I had picked up my socks and my thinking from that moment of being called out. Okay. I had earned this leadership experience, and I was in the same moment. We were doing a similar kind of activity to develop our leadership. And instead of shrinking and playing small in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, it's here again to test me. I am not failing the test this time. And so I totally stepped into my own strength and my own power. And I looked at the group, my team, we were in 2 teams to do this activity. And I looked at my group and I said, I know the answer. I know how to do this. And if you're cool with me taking the lead, I will like help us win this faster. You guys cool? Like I communicated, I asked permission. People were like, yeah, let's do this. And so I was like, okay, you here, you there. Okay, do. We had it done in like 5 minutes. The other team took 35 minutes or something crazy.
Yeah.
But it was like, I am not going to allow myself to shrink, to play small anymore. And I'm so grateful that the second opportunity revealed itself to me to really test, okay, Amy, like, do you believe in yourself more? Do you believe that you are worthy? Do you feel like you are enough? Like, here's your chance. Have you done the work? And I had done the work. I had taken some of the steps that I talk about in the TEDx to grow this belief in myself, to really begin to feel worthy and enough. And so I went for it and it paid off. And we all can do this. We all can do it. We all are enough.
Aw. I don't even like, where does it stem from? Is it a cultural thing? Is it partly a gender thing? Like, I don't know what's going on. Can you give us some sort of insights of maybe examples of why this might be happening?
You know, I don't want to totally overgeneralize here, but that's what's going to happen.
I know. Yeah.
It would be different for everyone.
Yeah.
But my guess, based on all of the clients that I've worked with over the years, is there's a link to a moment or a few moments in our early years, kind of before the age of 10, 8, in that window of time. Because if you look at young children, they do not have the belief, I am not enough, until they have the belief, I am not enough. Until that one moment that they start questioning and second guessing. And it could be that they overhear someone else saying these horrible things about themselves, that they then think, oh, well, if my mommy, daddy, someone important in my life is saying this, well, then maybe it means something for me. They could make that, I mean, they're little though. Someone could say something, like a teacher could say something to somebody, maybe not even directed at them, but it could be, again, that they're overhearing it. It could have been directed at them. It could have been that one moment. Listen, I'm a mom, and I'm so aware of the moments that have shaped the behaviors I now see. It's like, oh my gosh, Amy. Yeah. But like, I'm a human, and we all are on this human journey to make mistakes. And I say, you know, we're all messing our kids up in unique and special ways, but not on purpose, but like it is what it is. And so it could have been one of those moments out of frustration or like sheer overwhelm on the side of a parent who says something they didn't mean, that then is the words that human, which now grows up to be an adult, plays over and over and over in their life, in their head, sometimes without even knowing it or where it came from. They may not even remember where it came from. So really cool. I more recently have learned a few techniques that help people unlock the power of that moment.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah. So that, I mean, it's a coaching strategy that we would use in a coaching session that is, you know, in a container of safety and not public. But certainly it's something that can help individuals to unlock the emotion and connection that they had from that experience to take new steps going forward.
Can you tell us like the generic form in which that takes? Like, is it kind of like a past life regression, or are you bringing in Akashic, like some sort of like?
It's called timeline therapy.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't like that the word therapy's in it, if I'm being really honest, because I don't do therapy. I'm not a therapist. There are beautiful, amazing, fabulous humans that do that work, and I am not one of those people. So I don't love that word is in there, but I do love the concept of the timeline.
If it makes you feel any better, I just looked up the definition of therapy. It says the treatment of mental conditions by verbal communication and interaction.
Yeah.
It's also described as treatment intended to relieve or heal a disorder.
Well,
So
and
if
I
we
love
go-
all those things. It's just
Yeah,
like
so
the word treatment is very like I really spend a lot of time, honestly, Laura, helping people to understand the difference between therapy and coaching, and I
yeah.
don't want the lines blurred more. So
No.
I use this technique when I'm with a client who is experiencing some of these moments where it's a past moment that is still causing them challenge.
Mhm.
I'll use this as a tool if they feel aligned and they clearly are willing and they have desire and willingness to change. Those are two very important things. But there's such a big difference between coaching and therapy in that I don't spend a lot of time in the past. So this activity is a moment in time that we look at a moment in time. We don't, right? But therapy can be more significantly based in that. And it is a therapeutic approach. And it is, considered one of the medical. So I just don't want people to be confused, right?
Yeah.
Because there's enough confusion.
I know. Oh my God.
There's enough confusion.
I only asked because there's this 6-year window in my childhood that I have very few memories. And yet I have memories since I was 2. Okay. So it's not like I don't remember because I was so young. No. I have lots of memories from the age of 2 up until the age of about 7 or 8. And then there's a blank spot. And then after grade 8, I have memories. So I'm like, what happened in that
What are you
time that
blocking
my
out?
I know that my body feels like I have to still be protected in that time frame,
Yeah.
that there's still something I need to resolve. I'm like, okay, it'll slowly unfold when I can handle it, but I still want to know what's there.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think part of it really does have to do with this idea of being enough or that worthiness. I'm like, what happened in there? I am ready to see this. Can you please just show me?
Yeah.
Okay. I love that you shared that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm also seeing lots of books on your shelf. Did you write any of those?
Well, I've been a part of the Blue Talk series.
Oh, which one?
I'm in number 6.
Oh, I don't have that one.
Oh, time to buy
I'm
number 6.
I'm number 3 physically with me. I'm in book 11, but I don't have a physical copy of that one yet.
Yeah, so I've been a part of that. I've been a part of a few other collaboration books as well, and working on my own coming soon. So that one will be, yeah. That's what we'll leave it at. It's still in the works. So,
is it business related or is it more of like the personal side?
This one is more actually focused on well-being. So,
okay. And is there some sort of year guess on when you're hoping to get that out?
I would expect the end of this year, sometime mid next year. Yeah.
Just that we can be like, oh, I'm going to follow Amy and see if I can learn more. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah.
Did you always like writing or was there a time when it was awkward for you?
Writing is not my favorite. I do love it. I do, not the word love. I do like it. Speaking is my favorite. So, really what I get to do, not need to, should to, or have to, but what I get to do is have more recordings of the times when I am talking and have somebody just go blah, 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 and put it into a book for me because I feel far more confident in the speaking side of things when I'm in front of a group of people versus like sitting down to type it out. But I have been told that I am good at the written communication. I just don't spend very much time there. So that's my growth journey.
No, that's fine. Because I want to know, like, what are the parts of sharing your message or the methods of sharing your message that align with you, Amy, not Maria or me?
Yeah. Really, for me, it's the speaking. When I can connect with real live human eyeballs and hearts, I like to see their eyeballs,
Yes.
Connecting back. That is a fuel for me.
Me too. I'm
Me
pretty
too.
sure we have a lot in common. So we need to chat
I
more
know.
afterwards.
I
But
agree.
go ahead, Maria.
No, yeah, I was going to say for me, it's the same. You know, it's a, you know, co-creating space with somebody when you're engaging, when you're feeling what they're feeling, when, you know, you can see the transformation happen right in front of you. To me, that is so much more easier than sitting down and writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
I
love your
also,
message. Yeah, by the way.
I love what you said, the co-creating. I do feel like I'm pretty connected through intuition and through the concept of divine downloads. I don't talk about that a lot as an executive coach, right? Because, anyways, but I love being in that space, whether it's one person or more, and being able to feel like, okay, what is the message that is meant to come through here in this moment for this person? And that's part of the reason why I love one-to-one coaching so much, because I do get a lot of intuitive guidance on questions to ask, even, or areas to dig into a little bit more. And when I'm with an audience of people, it's more the when I can see the, like, even the confused look, or the moment of like, oh, that could work for me, or I haven't tried that. Like, you can read the body language in the room and allow that to help spur on the messages that come out of your mouth, you know?
Mhm.
You're probably also reading the group energy. If you're
Yes.
already receiving that download, you're also receiving, you know, downloads for the group.
Yeah.
Even if we're talking to one person, you know, there's a resonance with a lot of the group. Yeah, beautiful.
When I did my Blue Talk at Harvard a couple years ago, I did it the night before. Like, I was like, I know what I want to say, but there was so much fear and the not enoughness and stuff that kept creeping in, because my message was something that had a bit of a rebellious feel to it. It was me calling out some of the things that we love, like the know, like, and trust factor.
Yeah.
My speech was about calling BS on it. And so there was this fight within me of, do I share it? Do I not share it? So I didn't write it until the night before. When I gave it, just like you, I love the crowd, the people, being able to read them and their energy in the moment. But then they told me afterwards that when they filmed and I asked a question at the beginning, somebody raised their hand and made the camera refocus to their hand. So then I was out of focus, just slightly blurry, through my entire talk on that camera. And they're like, do you want to stay later after everybody's done their talk and do it again? We can't promise you'll have an audience. And I was like, that automatically told me that I can't do it. No, I feed off that audience. If that audience isn't there, I do not show up in the same way, plain and simple. If it's a little blurry, can you still see me? Yeah. And they showed me the film. Like, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I'm sorry that happened. I'm so sorry that happens, because we put so much time and effort into crafting the message. And I think that, okay, so are you open to some coaching, Laura?
Oh, sure. I'm always going to be the guinea pig. I teach vulnerability and courage. I got to be the person.
I'm like, I want to go here, but I have to ask permission first. You have so much power and so much to give. From what I've watched of you, you have so much. And I believe that the divine download, like, the message would have still come through you, whether you had an audience or not.
The message still would have come through, but it wouldn't have felt the same.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And to me, I talk about emotions. And so that feeling of watching me is more important than what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I love is that you trusted yourself. You trusted your guidance. That's really powerful.
Yeah. I thought you were going to go further, but your words did bring tears to my eyes, because receiving, right, as somebody who is struggling with the worthiness and enoughness, having love come back at me is still very difficult. So I receive. Thank you. Thank you. Receiving, practicing.
Yeah.
Right. And I encourage the audience to do the same. Take your compliments, say thank you, leave it at that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're so enough. And it's your opportunity to continue to step into that, knowing and feeling that, right?
Okay, let's move forward. I want to learn more about future Amy.
Ooh.
Okay, so if we could rub a genie lamp, turn on a light switch, snap your fingers, kind of crazy cool.
Yeah.
What would you love, crazy cool love, Amy to do in the next 12 months?
Oh, that's
Or
not
be.
future, Amy.
It's
I'm thinking 5 years.
Oh,
The
you
next
can do
12
5
months.
years.
The next 12 months. That seems so short term to me.
Okay, then 5 years. Next 5 years.
5 years? Okay.
With
Because that's
badass
like
people.
really thinking out and
Okay.
like holy smokesing, right?
But it's snap of a fingers, right? That's the difference. We don't want it to be logical at all. We want it to be crazy cool.
Yeah. So the next 5 years. So as my core top value is my family, I still often like play into, okay, in 5 years, my youngest will be going into grade 9. So life changes
Oh, yes.
when all of my kids are kind of like in that next level, where I'm not, I'm still needed, but I'm not, like right in it still.
Yeah.
So in 5 years, the like wild and crazy is that the TEDx's, because I'm getting ready to do my second one, have been seen globally by a couple 100,000 or more. Let's
We'll
say
say
300,
million because we're being
400,
crazy.
sure, millions. Oh my gosh, that feels like holy shit, right?
Crazy cool.
Okay, let's go there. And I have a person who takes the requests of speaking and then sorts through, like, is this aligned to Amy and her mission? Is it aligned? Is it, what's the size of the group? And that I am speaking around the world, making money that is in alignment to the value that I'm providing, that I can then go out and contribute and create the legacy that I want, with those dollars of, contributing to different charities and so on. And so speaking around the world, once per month, twice per month, maybe. Like I'm very hardcore, like really hardcore about balance. It's what my next TEDx is about. And so I am very mindful that I want to maintain that in my life as well. So I'm not thinking so crazy that I'm like on the road a billion days of the year. I don't want to be that. I want to be present with my family. I want to be engaged in our community, and still maintain the opportunity to share my message. And then the side piece is the opportunity to coach people continues to be those people that really resonate with who I am, and I take a smaller group of people to coach, and also have some kind of membership or program or something that I can still help impact people in that level, where really be able to support them and help them where maybe my time isn't so connected. And then, like, lastly, I mean, we're dreaming big, right? So by that point, like, I don't know, I will have written 4 more books on my own. Like, so this is the crazy, like, holy shit, I'm saying this out loud, kind of like in front of you moment of like, so here we are.
That's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, okay.
Because then not just you, but Maria and I get to experience this energy of what it is that you want. We get to practice a little bit now. And then also the audience gets to hear what would make Amy's dreams come true. And then they get excited because they're like, oh, how can I help Amy do that? Because I get to play a role in somebody else's massive, crazy, cool success, change their lives. That feels so good. And as a coach, I know that you love watching your clients unfold and making good changes. Imagine if it was completely life-changing like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ah, I just feel all excited. I know.
Yeah, and it often starts with this powerful declaration, right? The declaration of what you want, the biggest vision, the biggest dream. And that it's a catalyst. It gives them momentum. So awesome.
It is. Oh my God. When I think your interview has like 15 minutes. I don't want to cut you short if it's not. That's okay. Hour and a
Thank you.
half. Yeah, you have 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I also want to make sure that we learn more about how you work with clients. So like, who are your ideal clients? And then how do you love to work with them? Like, how do you love to show up?
So my ideal clients are those humans, so they can identify in any gender, but they are juggling uh, pretty high level in their profession, whether they're an entrepreneur running their own business or they're higher level in their profession, and they're juggling family. So there's that pull to both sides, wanting to show up fully in both sides, wanting to learn and take the steps. Like they have that coachability, they're willing, and they have that desire to do the actions that will help them feel good. So their wellness is a part of the puzzle. So I do this coaching executive, meaning like within their workplace, I coach in that sphere. So how are they communicating with the people that they're supporting? How are they providing feedback or not? How are they showing up? How are they allowing others to see perhaps their vulnerability and so on? Their emotional intelligence in the workplace, but then also how are they interacting in their life? Often these clients are, it's so funny because they're like, can we talk about what's happening with my spouse? Even though we've been talking about work for a number of weeks or months. And I'm like, yeah, we can talk about whatever you want, right? Like it's because I believe that we are a whole human, and I really love coaching the whole human. So when people allow me into that sphere, I think that there's even more power because we're not just sticking in one silo of a person. That our life at home impacts our life in how we show up at work, and vice versa. How we show up at work impacts how we interact at home. And then our wellness is the overarching, like the two spheres are kind of interlocked, and the wellness is all around it. So if we are not well, we're likely not showing up at our best in either of those main two places. And so I really get super pumped. I mean, I'll coach people wherever they're at, but I get super pumped when I can interact with all of those components. And it usually starts with someone coming to me with one, and then they realize, wait a second, this was so valuable. I have this other issue I'm having over here. Can we dig into that and make a plan for that and have it real accountability? So I think that's one of the things with coaching is, real solid accountability. I've had a number of people say to me, if we're looking at the wellness space, they're like, I've been to physio and chiropractor, nutritionist, dietitian. I've been to all these people, osteo, and I don't really follow through with any of it because there's no accountability. And so I often can be their accountability to bring it all together, to make the solid plan, because that's part of what I offer. On the other side of things, I really enjoy helping people in the emotional intelligence side of their work and their home life. How self-aware are they? How aware are they of others? Are they allowing their emotions to be a guide for them? Are they like fighting against it, or are they maybe accessing it more than the logic, right? Like really helping people from that perspective. And I think the other piece of how I am different as a coach, because there's like a billion of us out there, how I am different is that I do bring that empathy, and I do bring a space where people feel like they can show their emotions, they can be vulnerable. I'm not going to brush it off. I'm not going to ignore it. I will, if I see body language that's suggesting they're feeling something, I will I will ask, and we will dig into it so that they can process and allow the tears if that's what feels aligned to them, because that's often how we are releasing some of the pressure we're feeling. So that safe space, I'm told I'm a very good listener and good at asking the questions. So I come from that place of, I say, heart-centered approach, but I will call you all on your baloney.
Yes,
With
please.
love. Baloney with love is me. That's my sandwich approach. My baloney, I'm calling you on your baloney with love. So when I hear the baloney, I'm not just going to let it slide. I want people to get the most out of the experience and really feel like they've got value from every single coaching conversation.
Deborah was doing that to me on Tuesday. She was calling me out on all the words I was using, and I so appreciate it, because I do the same thing, but I also teach the same words that I was using that I'm trying to get people to not use anymore. I was like, thank you, Deborah. That was a nice reminder. I forgot in the moment. And it was great to feel seen, because again, it was with that love. So I do want to ask you a bit of a potentially more difficult question. Emotions are my jam. Energy seems to be more of Maria's jam. How do you bring that conversation of energy, emotions, spirituality, and those superpowers that is emotional intelligence into something like an executive coach that, so powerful, professional kind of air? Yeah.
I love it. I love it, because one of the things that I say to myself, and this is, you can maybe try this out as well when you're working with these types of people, but I like to, my self-talk for me is, they are a human. They are a human too. And so what I often say is, I will preface with, I've got an idea, because in my coaching, it's different from others' coaching in that some coaches are about downloading, right? They get the download, they just share the download. Okay.
Yeah.
I had a coach like that. Share, share, share. I'm a coach who is about asking the question to get the client to share. I do a lot less talking. I really aim to do a lot less talking. And so I will say, I've had this idea come to me. So I am alluding to the fact that there are intuition, right? So I've had this idea come to me. I have something I'd like to share if you're open to it. And it may be outside of what you've heard before. So I'm like giving them a little window into I'm not going to teach you some like business strategy. Most of my I'm going to tell you something else is related to energy or emotions or a divine download or so on. And sometimes, depending on the relationship, if I've created that deeper sense of trust, I'll just go for it. Sometimes if it's earlier on in the coaching engagement, then I will provide a bit more of a preface to say, that you may feel a little bit like this is woo woo, but I really, if you're open, if you're willing to play full out and you've got the desire, and I get that confirmation, like, yes, I'm willing, I've got the desire, yes, I'm open to hearing something that maybe I'm not expecting. And then I'll share that strategy that's more focused on energy, more focused on emotions, more focused on connecting to their heart, right? Those kinds of, business, you might assume that a business person would be like, but they're a human. So when I come from that mindset for myself and I'm coaching myself on like, yes, it's safe to go here. It is, if I feel the call to share it, I'm like, Amy, they're just a human. So give it a shot. Give it a shot and go for it. Right.
Yeah.
Hey, I'd like to add something to that. I have kind of a question. That idea of they're human, right? Actually, even if you state that, that's in your human nature, we understand, it's part of the human experience. I think that relaxes people, also from the judgment that they've been experiencing toward themselves or the criticism, because they're like thinking, I did all of these things wrong, or all of this is wrong with me, or I'm not getting this right, or I'm feeling all these feelings. But when we bring them back to that human experience, this is part of our journey. This is part of what we're here to do, and we're here to learn from that. I feel like, especially in my practice, people relax and they feel like, oh, okay, yeah, let me be a little bit more open and a little bit more kind to myself, a little bit more empathetic toward myself. And that I feel that creates more openness to, okay, what else is there for me to know that maybe I wasn't really paying attention to, like maybe some of the things that they, like you said, you preface it, well, this may be different than what you've heard. But I feel like when you get them to that point of, yeah, this is the baseline, this is the starting point, a lot of us experience that, or it's part of our learning experience, then again, that allows them to be more open to the stuff that maybe in the past they weren't really open to. And it may be because they were focused on something else that wasn't really creating that opening or allowing them to really evolve or really see themselves differently. In this sort of process that you do, I love the approach. When you're getting your downloads for the people, do you find that there's also an elevation of their vibration? Meaning that openness, like you're creating that space for them to also elevate. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. And I think it's my opportunity to notice it even more. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Aww. I had so many visuals come into my head as you were speaking. My mind likes to think in movies. And so there's constantly a movie playing. And if I can't make a movie, then I don't really know what's going on.
Oh, yeah. Quite a visual person. Yeah.
That's just who I am. So as you were talking, I was picturing so many things. I was picturing the table again, which was really cute. But in the coaching of somebody where we have this preconceived idea of this is what I think they think it's going to be professional.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of like the angel and the devil on your shoulder going, do we tell them? I don't know if we should tell them. Well, if you tell them, then we're not going to get clients. And then, as you were saying at the very beginning, that worthiness, that not enoughness can easily come right in.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll stop ourselves from sharing the thing that could be the change maker in that session with them or in their lives.
Yep.
So has there ever been a time where you were kind of afraid to share that download stuff, but yet once you shared it with somebody that you thought would never be open to it, you just watched them in that moment shift?
Mm-hmm.
Can you share a moment like that?
Oh my gosh. I have one recently where, and again, I'm a human too. And so I have my own self-talk things happening in the background, right? I'm coaching this this woman really high up in her company. And it comes to me to share this method that I use called the GATE method. Anyways, and
I love that one.
Yeah, so I'm talking about. I'm like in my head going, okay, it's come to me. Like I think it's time to share this, and I'm like, oh, and I think the most powerful part in the end isn't how I delivered it. I delivered it fine. She was like, okay, yeah, I'll try it out. Is the messages that I received from her afterwards about how she went out and got a picture of this beautiful, she's also spiritual, deeply connected to her faith. And so she got this beautiful picture of the gates of heaven that she posted in an appropriate place in her office to remind her of this message so that when she shows up, she uses the tool. And she's sent me a number of messages since that about like how that has been the most impactful thing that she's used for over the last month. And I'm like, and I could have easily said in my head, well, don't share it because she's a professional.
Can I show you something? I don't know if you can see it from here. Ugh.
Oh yeah.
I have a calendar specifically of doors for that reason.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Because that works so well for me. Basically, I went up to the gates of heaven or wherever. All of my family and loved ones were on the other side. And then it was my decision to either join them or not join them. And my body immediately, when that choice was represented to me or presented, was like, no, I can't, all dramatic in my head. And then I started crying and I was like, well, why? And then just my whole body started saying, you cannot leave right now. there's too many important things that you need to do, like that message that we have inside of us that I can't leave yet. I have to stay, even though that means that I don't get to see any of you until I'm ready. And it hurt, but yet at the same time, it felt so good. So then I bought the calendar as that reminder of I have stuff to do.
I appreciate you sharing that. That's a different version of my gates, but I appreciate you sharing that because that's I might use that.
Yeah, no, it's that whole like separation and you have to make a decision.
Yeah, you have so much to share, Laura. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes.
So I want to make sure we're running a minute or two behind. I want to make sure that we know where to find you and what your favorite way is to communicate.
Yeah, so I would love for individuals who are listening to connect with me on Instagram. If you have Instagram, it's just Amy Ballantyne, and I don't mean just, but
there you go.
right? At Amy Ballantyne, and Facebook is amyballantyne.official for the Facebook page over there, and LinkedIn. I'd love for people to add me on LinkedIn over there with at Amy Ballantyne as well.
Sure. And then I do like to hold space at the end of an interview just to make sure that you said what was on your heart or in your mind. So if there's something that you need people to take away from this conversation today, what might that be?
You are worthy, my friends. Breathe into that. You are worthy and enough every single moment of every single day, and you have been since the very first moment, and you will be until the very last.
Oh, that's so sweet. My heart is just expanding and it hurts. I love you so much. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Amy.
Bye, Amy. We'll chat soon.
Bye. See ya.
Irma, I see you in the backstage. If you're ready to come up, just give me a thumbs up. Okay. I joke. I'm like, sometimes there's like hair in your face or cat hair up your nose. You never know. So I always ask. Irma, I have heard so many lovely things from different people this week about you. They're like, oh, I heard Irma's coming up. She's so lovely. You've got lots of fans.
Thank you, Laura. And it's so good to be here and to chatting with you on our very interesting day. It's been raining, then it starts snowing, and now there's nothing. So who knows? Wait 5 minutes, it will change.
Sounds like our conversation. You don't know where the conversation is going to go, but the fun part is finding a way to bring it back into this idea, which is the name of the show, of Amplify Your Message. So we get to talk about you, Irma, as a human being, and then we get to talk about your skills as it reflects the message that you want to share, but then also how is it that you have chosen to share your message in all these fun ways. But I do like to start off an interview by shaking things up a bit so we don't get your pre-programmed responses. And this is a question. If you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
I have to add a few words.
Sure.
Passionate about youth, definitely. That is just, interspersed in there.
Yeah.
Focused.
Okay.
Kind.
Okay.
I've been told that.
I like that. But is that how you like to be described?
Yes.
Yeah. Double checking. Sometimes people are like, oh, people tell me I'm this and this and this. But then the real question is do you love being called that, and that? Like, is that how you want people to see you? So then these 3 words, or these 3 ideas, the passionate about youth, focused, and kind, what we're going to see throughout the interview is that these 3 words weave into your message in who you are as a human being and how you show up in the world. And we get to know that before we even have the conversation with you. Right? It's a lot of fun. So then, Irma, how does passionate about youth, that's very specific, I like it, focused, and kind, how do those words play a role in the message that you share with people?
I emigrated twice in my lifetime, and that is how I started getting involved with people and spreading the word about legal immigration, because people tend to think there's, the broad term is who legal immigrants are, but it's not. It is, we have paid a lot of money to get here. We've worked hard to get here. So then I got involved with youth along the way, and I realized my younger daughter, she was severely bullied. It was pretty bad. And I discovered that youth, they want to be seen, they want to be heard. And I'm very much involved today with them. I'm currently coaching a teenager for her TEDx talk. I have another one in the lineup to teach. I also work with groups. I am part of a group of women who are motivated to make our future leaders stand out and give them the skills to stand out. So we are involved with Toastmasters, leadership programs there, as well as with Rotary. So we can help shape their presentations, their speeches, how they present themselves, really, and give them the confidence that it is possible, they can succeed. So that is the one aspect where I'm passionate about youth. And it started because I saw how my daughter's friends, the ones who were quiet, the ones who might not have had a lot of confidence, and I started bringing them to my home, and they had circles around the fire, and they would talk about it. And that is where I realized I do have a skill to work with youth. The other thing I work with is I'm passionate about educating people about legal immigration, like I mentioned, because I feel, especially today, where the world is a little bit topsy-turvy, that people need to know there is a place for them when they want to do things the legal way. And I live that I will not say something to someone if I didn't want those words back at myself.
Aww.
I count my words, even when I'm angry and upset and someone was especially disrespectful. I do count my words. I will not lash out because I feel that it's very important for us to perhaps look past someone lashing out and understand they might be having a bad day, or it's their circumstances, or maybe they've never been shown kindness. And that is why I want to give that to people.
I had so many conversations with my daughter over the years because of bullying and just not nice people, or maybe a moment that wasn't so great. And it's taking a lot of practice. But yet the conversation was, this person had lashed out or said such a thing, usually because they're feeling hurt. So then the question is where's the lack of love along that line in their experience? Mm-hmm. It's not that they need to be hurt. It's not that they need to be disciplined per se, especially when they're younger kids. Mm-hmm. Really, there's something in there where they lacked love. So then I was asking her, I was like, in those moments, instead of yelling back, can you try to respond from a place of love so that you can show them like love is possible in their lives and that hate or hurt isn't mm-hmm. everywhere? She's 14 now, so she gets it a little more. But when she was 5, it was like, but I don't wanna.
No, I'm not.
Of course not. So you said that you like to work with youth. How do you find that their mindset is different from the, I guess, adult or more adultier type mindset?
You know what? We as adults think that we should prove to the world how fantastic we are and how fabulous we are and how knowledgeable we are. We don't get that with youth. With youth, they know we are there that to help them. to help them succeed, to help them become the best versions of themselves. This young lady I am coaching at the moment for her next talk, she is whip smart, as in absolutely logically thinking, overachiever, involved with donations, involved with volunteering to get a school in Africa going for girls, involved in speaking with cancer kids, involved with starting her own youth optimist club for teenagers so that they can learn how to become leaders. And she's only 15. So that is where I see, because she is so involved with all of it, sometimes she gets in her own way. She gets too much in her head trying to think what is the right thing to do. And kids want to please those around us. Kids want to show those around them that they have what it takes, and they're prepared to listen. They are prepared to try. They're prepared to do the tasks that we ask them to do to succeed. So when you work with youth, they want to be there. They want to succeed. They want to be able to show what they are capable of. And I feel that, especially the way things are going around us, that is special.
Yeah.
It is so special to see that. And you know what I noticed, Laura, is that immigrant youth work hard.
Oh, yeah.
They work so hard to be accepted, to show to their parents that they are grateful for being here, for the parents who took that leap of faith to be in a different country, to get a better life for the kids. It is absolutely incredible how grateful they are towards their parents, towards their families, for having them here. And for that, they work even harder.
We had, at the beginning of the day, we also had another immigrant, Emilio, and he was talking about his journey, but and working hard as well. Where do you find we lose that drive as we go from teenager into adulthood?
I think teenagers, they are a nation on their own. And many times I have wondered, where is that island that I can send my girls there and then only pick them up once they grew up a little bit? The secret behind the angst and the anger and the temper outbursts and absolute frustration they're showing us, and things they do. Sometimes they do things that's really, really dumb. And you wonder, what were you thinking? But the secret behind that is they always have to know that you have their back. They must know it doesn't matter what happens, they have your support. And many, many times kids don't. People have children, they feel they are in their way, they are kids, but it's easier to be an adult and do your own thing and live your own life than really spending time with your kids. And to me, I see it all the time. You can just look at the news. You can read what's going on and how kids are lashing out. And then you go back in their histories, it's because they never had that support. They never felt that they were wanted, that they were important. It's a different thing to tell a kid all the time, you are so beautiful, you are so fantastic, you are so smart. That is not what a kid needs to hear.
Mhm.
The child needs to hear that it's okay to try things, stay within the law, stay within the rules in the house, but it's okay to try things. It's okay to spread your wings and to start your own little business when you're still a teenager. Or it's okay to talk to your friends about things that really bother you, but make sure you have your facts. Don't just, teenagers, they teach each other these horrific things because they think they are always in the right. And we know they're not. They don't really know always what they're talking about. So it's up to us to make them understand that. I also think that when you're an adult, you forget how to play. You forget how to be joyful. You are so busy trying to survive that sometimes you really don't want to have to spend time with a cranky child or a sulky teenager. It's easier for you just to go to bed. So, we are these kids. We should make the time to prepare them for adulthood. And that is what I hope I can achieve by working with youth, is just those small numbers that I see and can work with, that they have a better understanding of what it's like to want to follow their dreams.
Maria, do you have any kids?
I do, and I was just gonna ask Irma. So I have 3 kids from the ages of 10 to 12. So I have twins that are 12, and I'm also a cheer coach. And I see, we experience kids where they come from the background. We've also had to deal with bullying within, creating this family connection, community, team environment for them to thrive. And we've seen, sort of that transformation, and it's lovely and it's beautiful, and how the team comes together to really evolve into caring about each other and caring about the success for themselves and as a group. So just wanted to ask, Irma, if you could share some of the ways that you coach or some of the ways that you lead the youth, and maybe even any interactions with the parents, and how you have those conversations.
That is a good question, Maria, because sometimes we all have wished in our lives that we could find that 6-foot high textbook to show us exactly how to be a parent, right? Like all those pages and pages, but it's not around. So what we do is, and when I work with them as well, first of all, kids want to have fun when they are in groups. They want to know it's okay to get out of their own way and to be silly. It's one of the ways I coach these kids is they need to answer their why. And then they need to answer the why to that, and the why to that, and the why to that answer, until eventually they are frustrated and it's not so easy anymore to answer that why. And that is when the breakthrough happens, when they are so frustrated and they're like, I don't know. And then they realize it's been with them all that time, that they, and whatever they are searching for, it's right in front of them. So working with groups, I educate them about what to be aware of. Bullying takes all kinds of colors and of ideas. And it's not the obvious ones. They are big, but it's the more innuendos. A friend at school, friend who would use social media to get back at the kid because they might have looked at their boyfriend, or maybe they didn't share the homework, something so silly, and they get back to them. And that is what happened with my daughter, the bullying. She was told on Snapchat and to walk in front of a bus. She wasn't worth breathing in the same air as the other kids. She was useless as a human being. She was fake. She was born in the US, right? So she was a dirty American. What is she doing in Canada? It was awful, awful. And I missed the signs, Maria. I missed them. I thought I knew what was happening. And then I realized I didn't know until it was almost too late.
Yeah.
So, parents, it's easy for us to say to a child, you know what? It's going to be okay. Just be nice to them. It's going to be fine. No, it's not. Because we are not walking in their footsteps. We are not in their shoes. They are dealing with it every day. We just this week, I don't know if you saw in the news, of this young boy who was 10, 11, and he was severely bullied because he was wearing glasses and he had buck teeth and he committed suicide. So, and the parents saying, it's not that bad. I'm sure it's not that bad. I'm sure that maybe kids don't really mean that. It's easy for us to say that, right? It's easy for us to, because we don't think that way, to want to say others don't think that way. But it's not true. And if there's any behavioral change, if a child becomes withdrawn or angry, the two extremes, they don't want to be around people, they all of a sudden get sick all the time, that is time to step in. And I told my daughter, when I realized what was happening, I told her, you don't have to finish school. You don't have to go to school. We can do homeschooling, or you can finish school some other time. You, right now, it's important for you to stay alive. What can I do to help? That is so often, we are so fixated on the trophy at the end, the certificate at the end, my child has never taken a day off from school, or my child is on the honor roll or the advanced program. But what does it take for them to stay?
Yeah.
And that's up to us to see those leadership skills, to say, let's go volunteer together. Let's go see what other kids are going through. Let's take time to explore other options. And in the groups we're working with is take on the roles in our meetings. Stand up and volunteer. Even if you have no clue what you're doing, do it. Just
Get involved.
get involved. And I think at the end of the day, we need to understand that those prefrontal lobes of theirs, it's not developed. And girls, until they're about 25, boys can go up to until they're 30 years old before they really start thinking clearly. That is scary, because when we were that age, I thought I knew it all, right?
Yeah.
But you don't, because you think with your emotions. You are not thinking clearly you don't have the ability or the capacity to logic things out. And I think we as adults as well, even though they might be fantastic in gymnastics or dancing or, playing sports, even then, we need to look at the signs. Are they injured in school sports or whatever sports they're doing? What kind of injuries are they? Because here's another thing. Concussion in young kids causes their personalities to change. And people don't take concussion seriously enough. They don't look at it and think it's important enough. It's a bump on your head. You know, your brain's got squiggled a little bit and you should be fine. But that is a huge factor. Huge. So look at the sports the kids are doing. Is it contact sport? Is it something that will affect their brains? And so young, it's easy for them to change their outlook in life. I mean, kids change on a dime. You know that. They change their ideas. This morning they're grumpy, and then this afternoon they get home and they are the most loving, caring creatures. And you go,
Oh,
what happened?
that was yesterday. Her bus wasn't running after school, and we were trying to figure out how to get her home. And she's like, I just don't want to go. We're like, you're going to school. So then I had to call my mom that lives like 40 minutes away because my husband works an hour in the opposite direction.
Oh,
And she came and she's like, don't want to go to school. She left without saying goodbye. She
Yeah.
never does that.
yeah.
But then when she came home with my mom after doing the talks, I get to see her and she's all smiles and happy and like hugging people. I'm like, well, I'm glad your day is better.
Yes. You know, they leave, and I'm like that. I wonder, what if something happens to me? They're going to have that for the rest of their lives, right?
Yeah.
Or what if something happens to them? I'm never going to forgive myself if I said back angry words, if I threw those angry, you know, that they come like missiles when we're so angry. You just want to attack because you're a child, and how dare you talk to me that way? And, you know, you can still say that to them, but you can say that in a different way. Like, so many times I told my kids, you know, you hurt me when you talk like that. I don't like it. And I feel it's not fair on me for you to take your anger out on me.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It's okay. You can take it out on me because I know you're doing it because you know you're safe to do it with me. That's a big one.
That's a whole other level there.
That's another level.
Yeah.
That is something I discovered over the years. And I've been working with teens for over 10 years now. And they will lash out only at the people they know that will keep on supporting them.
Yep.
So, Maria, to get back to your questions, keep on supporting them. Don't tolerate disrespect. Don't tolerate that, you know, the anger they're throwing at. They need to understand it's wrong. They need to understand there's a different way. Like you said, Laura, come from a place of love. They need to know that. And sometimes you're going to tell them over and over and over.
Over and over.
Did I mention and over? And it's still going to do it. But when they are adults, you will reap the benefits. And I see that with my two girls. They're both adults now, and they are both calm. They are so kind. They don't take nonsense, but they do it in such a way. They use the words that I used on them. You know, they would say to someone, maybe using different words to their friends, you know, don't be such an a-hole, or don't say that. That's not nice, or something in that line. Yeah. But they do use it. It's just never give up. Never give up. No matter how hard life gets. They are our future leaders. They are the ones that are going to choose our care facilities.
Come on, virtual reality games. Come on.
They are the ones who's going to choose the institutions that's going to clean our bottoms. So maybe we should never, ever give up on them.
I love
Well,
your message. I'm sorry.
no,
Irma.
go ahead.
I love your message about the parents, like getting involved, being aware, showing them your support, being present, like noticing different things, being in that awareness. And I also love the message about speaking up, not only the parents speaking up for the child, but teaching the child to speak up for themselves, because that's so important. I remember, my kids, not necessarily in school, but in sports, um, not like not giving the opportunity to play, the time that they need to play, and me noticing and speaking up for them, and they were surprised, but then they were grateful, and then they learned to do that. Like, oh, I get to do that. It's okay for me to ask. It's okay for me to be my own advocate. It's okay for me to ask for what I deserve. And so that I feel like that's really important. And what you're recommending, and for the parent, we don't know, we don't have all the answers.
No, we don't.
We're learning as we go, but we want to be present, and we want to be there, and we want to be supportive. I think that's so important for the kids to know that they have you, that you have them, that they have you.
Yes.
Yeah.
My firstborn, she's an athletic therapist, and it means that they work with sports teams out of a clinic as well, but with sports teams. And she has come home so many times where she had to argue with the parents. She had to convince the parents that their child is injured. Their child has concussion. Don't push them. Because, unfortunately, there are many, many adults who are trying to live vicariously through their kids.
Mhm.
And they push them to succeed where they never could. They want to brag about them. They want to talk to the other parents around in the kitchen at work about them. My kid is so fantastic, so perfect. But people are not educated in that regard, that when I grew up, you got injured, you get over it, you get back on the field, or whatever the case might be. Today, research has shown that with sports, you have to be aware. You have to look at it. Sports injuries can change a child's perception about themselves. So it's very important for us to look at those signs. And I mean, I saw the signs. My daughter was an honor roll student. She participated in sports. She's a phenomenal artist. She's a tattoo artist today, but absolutely brilliant. I missed those signs. I thought it was typical teenage behavior. Her dark mood swings, wanting to stay in the room with the curtains drawn, not wanting to go to school. Because I looked at what the general population was doing and trying to survive as an immigrant, working hard, wanting everyone to succeed, that everyone proves to the world that we do belong here. We are allowed to be here. We are working together. We are producing what you want us to produce. We are, we deserve to be here. Please keep us. And I missed the signs. I missed them.
Yeah.
The dark room, the anger, the temper outburst, the so many times yelling at me, you're not worth to be a mother. You're not worth to be someone who should have kids. I heard those words.
Yep.
They hurt. They hurt. But it was, I wish I can explain it. It was one day I learned meditation, and I do that best when I'm in nature. And I went for a walk in Fish Creek Park here. And it was early morning. I was so lost. I didn't know what to do. And I walked on the path, and I had my dog with me. And my dog stopped and sat down. And I looked up, and there was this doe right in front of me in the path. And she just looked at me. And I don't know how long we stared at each other. And then it was almost as if she nodded her head. I know it's crazy, right? It sounds crazy.
No.
And she, as she walked away, she kept on looking at me. And then she toddled off. And I went back, and it was as if a shift. It almost felt like a physical shift happened in my brain and my psyche, my being. And I knew what to do. I knew how to approach my daughter. And up to today, I realized that there are signs around us to help us and guide us if only we want to listen. Only we want to look around us. And that is when I truly listened to her. Not the words she spoke, but what was behind the words. And that is when her healing started. And really where my healing started, when I knew what to say. It was a very interesting time. It was a very stressful time, but I will never forget the doe that almost as if she told me and or words through me or told me what to do, or I don't know what happened, but that's when I realized, don't listen to what they say. Listen to what they are actually saying. There's a difference.
I want to make sure that we also highlight the ways that you love to share this message, because it's so powerful, because I have my own experience as a youth who attempted suicide, and my daughter who's gone through depression multiple times in her life, supporting her through that. And my husband as well. Like, I can probably count on one hand the amount of close people in my life who haven't thought about suicide. So like it's very prevalent. So we make sure to have that type of conversation. So what are your favorite ways to share this message?
I believe in leadership. Leadership with youth, leadership in adults, and everywhere I go, and every program I facilitate, when I speak on stages, I talk leadership. And, you know, it's a buzzword. Everyone is a leadership coach. Everyone knows everything about leadership. But leadership starts with ourselves. If I am not an example to those around me, there is no way I can talk about leadership. If I am not the one who does what I tell them to do or ask them to do, if I don't do that, if I don't step into leadership roles, if I don't show others that you can do little things and become a leader, if I don't do that, how can we teach that to others? It's, for example, I've been very involved with Toastmasters. And the only reason I joined Toastmasters is 5 years ago, I had the opportunity to be at the gifting suite at the Oscars. And to talk about youth leadership and youth bullying. And there are thousands of very important people walking through there. Actors, actresses, producers, you name it, they come through there. And I was given the opportunity. I was approached and asked if I would want to speak on that when they came by. So I needed a 60 to 90 second little elevator speech. Up to then, I've been speaking to schools, I've been speaking on platforms, I've been talking to people about it. And I blanked. I had no idea what I was going to do. And I walked past Toastmasters at the time where I was working, and they invited me in. It was a Christmas potluck brunch, and they invited me in. Hi, come join us. We've got so much food. And these Toastmasters, they're very sneaky, let me tell you. Anyway, and they invited me in, and then they said, what can we help you with? And it was my answer to, how am I going to do this? I have to go to Hollywood. I have to speak to all these people, and we put them on pedestals, and then you think you're not important enough. So I just made myself so small, and they helped me create my little elevator pitch that I must have said 1,000 times that day at the gifting suite. I was there for 2 days, and it was very interesting to see the approach Toastmasters then still today they take to leadership, which it's a volunteer role, but I became a division director this year to lead others, area directors, the clubs, and also present at conferences, because if I don't do it, I go back to what I said. If I don't show others, it's okay to step out of your comfort zone. It's okay to learn new ways of expanding. How can I expect people I teach to do the same thing? So that's my take on where I come from.
I love that. So we have the speaking, and I see that you're a TEDx speaker too, and you're obviously here on podcasts. Do you have any writing as well?
I do. I have published chapters in a few anthologies that have been on the bestsellers, Amazon bestsellers. I am going to be involved in this or featured in this book that Blue Talks is bringing out with Bob Proctor and
that one.
son. I'm going to be with that one.
Yeah.
I have published books years ago for youth that I'll probably go back and revisit, because I would like to update them a little bit and then publish as a bundle. But I am also close to starting my own publishing company to help youth publish their work.
Aww.
That is my dream. I also, this week, I have a partner. She and I are going to become TEDx organizers and for youth. We will have adult speakers, but it will be focused on youth as well, probably immigrant youth, but we will have other speakers also. So if you know of any venues that we could use, let me know. I will look into it.
Yeah.
I'm looking into that as well. And then, of course, I am also constantly writing, constantly appearing on podcasts, but speaking. In the last 10 months, I've done my TEDx talk. I've spoken at Oxford University. I've spoken at Columbia University when the protesters started their amazing parade through New York.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was, coming from a country where I carried my own gun, where I saw hijacks happen, where my daughter, her daycare was attacked in broad daylight, where I almost lost my mom, siblings, family, friends, some of them being killed. To experience that in New York a few weeks ago, it was a little bit deja vu freaky. I did not like that feeling one bit at all, but it was a great experience. I made great friends along the way. And so I keep on speaking on stages to educate about leadership, immigration, legal immigration, and the power of youth and their entrepreneurship.
Nice. So Irma, I want to make sure that we know where to find you and what your favorite way of communicating is.
I love LinkedIn. I really do. I feel that LinkedIn is a fantastic way to get hold of people, because to a certain extent, the other social media platforms are very generalized. And with LinkedIn, it's not as generalized. You have to specifically want to communicate there. So I do like that. They can also go to my website, irmagoosen.com, and they can find me there as well.
Awesome. I also like to hold space at the end of an interview to just ask you what's on your heart, what's on your mind. So if there's something that you needed people to take away from this interview today, what might that be?
Don't stop believing in yourself, ever. We think that we're not seen and that we are unheard. It's not true. If there's just even one person that can benefit from what you can tell them, you can save a life. And never give up in helping others and showing others that it's okay to be sad, it's okay to be angry and happy and all the emotions, but it's a wonderful, wonderful place to be a human being and to be alive. Life is precious, very, very precious.
Aww.
Let's embrace that.
Thank you so much, Irma, for our conversation today and being willing to go deep with us and personal and vulnerable. I love when people do that. So I'm sharing that appreciation with you.
Oh, thank you, Laura. Maria, thank you so much for having me. I am very, very grateful to be here with you today. Thank you.
Bye, Irma.
Thank you.
Bye.
So, Maria, I know that you were about to leave. Are you heading out now?
I am, and thank you so much. It was so much fun, beautiful experience, and beautiful guest. I thoroughly enjoyed myself holding space and also learning what everybody else is up to, the impact they're creating. So amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We will catch you later, Maria.
Bye-bye.
And behind the scenes, we have our next guests who are ready. We have Amy and Carl. Just give me thumbs up if you're ready to come on camera. Awesome. Right in time for the puppy. Oh, it's a kitty. It was all blurred and tiny down at the bottom. It's a kitty. Okay.
She always likes to join us. She'll move here in a moment. Hi, Laura. Good to see you.
You too. I have 3 cats of my own. And of course, every time I'm in an interview, they're like, Mom. I'm like, no, you're being locked out today. Oh, I have to ask, what's your cat's name?
Simba.
Oh, like the Lion King?
Girl. What?
Like the Lion King?
Oh, it's such a long story. She's actually a girl, even though that was a boy. And this is her second time here. And it's a
first time she looked like your cat.
Yeah. Oh, you've seen her cat?
Yes, I saw.
Oh, okay. Yes. So you have 3 of them. I love that so much. Yeah.
So I do have a co-host that will be coming at some point in our interview, just to kind of give you a heads up for that. Okay. But I like to start every interview with a question that shakes up our conversation just a little. And we're going to have some fun with it. Okay. So we'll do this individually since there's 2 of you. So Amy, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll go straight to Carl, and then we'll come back. So Amy, if you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be? I know.
Laura, okay. Funny.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I'm saying is probably what they do to say. Passionate and full of love.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm not strict on the exact 3 words. We're good.
Okay, thank you.
It's like, what's the feeling behind the words? So Carl, without any explanation, we're just going to skip to you. So Carl, if you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
Divine. Passionate. And Filled with life.
Filled with life.
Nice. Yeah. Well, you are this.
Okay, Simba. No, I'm having an interview with 3 of you now. So. No, the reason why I ask is before we get to hear about who Amy is and who Carl is, not just about the skills that you have, but also like your messaging and how you like to show up in the world. This gives me an idea about all of that before we ever have that conversation. Right? It's a lot of fun. I get to ask every single person that I interview, and then I get to find the patterns. And eventually I'm going to have so many people that I've interviewed with this exact same question that I can find as human beings. What is it that we like to be viewed as? Right? Like, how can we have conversations around that? Because just because, Amy, I call you a beautiful soul that is so loving and kind, you're like, oh, that's great. And I'm going to get 100 other words on top of that. But it's not going to be the same as when I say Carl just has this fun loving, like party, but not like party wild, but like foundational, supportive. I can't think of the word. It's more like a hug kind of party vibe to you.
That's it.
Right? I was like, I don't have a word for that, but you get the feeling of that, right? Now I get to know you as human beings. And really what I want this conversation to be is, who are you as human beings first? Then when you start sharing your message and the skills that you have, we really connect with you and not using you for your skills or areas of expertise. So then these words, I'm going to remind you of your words. So Amy, you said funny, passionate, and full of love. And Carl, you said divine, passionate, and filled with life. How do these words play a role in the message that you share with people?
Well, I like you said divine, because we believe that we are all divine beings.
Yeah.
And we're on a journey back to remembering who we truly are.
Yeah.
And it's nice to, what?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's nice to have humor. And one of the things I'm always been so grateful for, and I guess the reason I said funny is because I have always, my whole life, been very easily amused. And those who think they're funny really like me.
Yeah.
Well, I get that trait from my mother. And we would always, growing up, Mom and I'd be laughing on the floor over nothing. And Dad would say, what's so funny? What's so funny? I don't get what's so funny.
I don't know. Mom was laughing, so now I'm laughing, and I don't know what happened.
Yeah, so, and we're laughing every day, aren't we, Carl? Every day we're laughing. He makes me laugh, I make him laugh, and it's just so much joy to have laughter in our life.
I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. The whole day, all of the interviews, there was little jokes in there, and we were just playing with each other, and so the whole day was a lot of laughter. And it was really what I needed at the time. So it's like, I appreciate all of you so much.
Yes.
So I love this coming back into yourself. We talked about oneness a lot this week as well. And I know that both of you are more in that spiritual realm of mind flavors there in the background, just to highlight it for people, and the meditation. I remember our last interview, you sent me a link to one of your meditations. It was beautiful. Yeah. So then how did you get on that path of the oneness and the spirituality?
Would you like to answer that?
Okay. Go ahead first.
Well, we go back a long time in this life. Carl and I met more than 33 years ago, Valentine's Day, 1991.
Aww.
And I had just began to learning that we create our own reality through how we think, feel, and what we believe. And right when I met Carl, he was also right on that path. And he taught me a really powerful practice that we do right before we go to sleep that would help me change the programming in my subconscious, because back then, the thoughts and feelings and beliefs that I had were just not good at all. And so what got us on this path, coming back to ourselves, who we truly are, was the quest of how do we change these thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that we prefer not, so we can have the good ones that we like, so we can really create a life that we love and that we're here for.
Isn't that the secret we all want? Go ahead, girl.
Well, I can honestly say that I was on this path at a pretty young age. I just started noticing my interactions with others, and I started getting more and more motivated to have my life go smoother and have the best possible interactions that I could with others. However, I had all these things that would come out of me sometimes spontaneously, and it would cause me to reflect later and say, well, why did I do that? Or why did I say that? Or and so I started digging deeper, and I really started just focusing on how can I better myself? And that was kind of the beginning of, and that started really early in life for me. I would say in my early teens, even maybe 12, 13.
Oh, wow.
It actually started really about earlier for me too, because from a young age, I was always studying behavior in others.
Ooh,
and I was always very curious as a young girl why sometimes my dad was happy and sometimes he wasn't, right? And what caused us to be happy. And then as I grew into my young teenage years, I was really observing myself, and I thought it was so strange how one moment I could feel so good and so happy and so full of life, and then something could happen, or maybe I wouldn't even know what happened, and all of a sudden my energy would drop and I would not feel so good. So I feel like it's been in me from a young age. It wasn't just until right before I met Carl, in my early 20s. I was 23 when I met Carl. Actually, when I was 20, I had my first really big awakening when I was 20, and that's when I was guided. I was told, because life was just really very not fun, okay? It was like going through a lot. And my guidance, the first time I really heard my inner guidance really loud, and it said, you don't have to live like this. There's a better way. And I believed that. I listened. I started reading books, like Shakti for Wayne, Creative Visualization, Wayne Dyer, You'll See It When You Believe It. So I started learning these things for a couple of years, and then I met Carl, perfect timing. And so this has been our thing our whole life, consciousness, how we change our consciousness so we can change our reality.
We get stuck so frequently in the, I need to see it to believe it. How do you have any insight or helpful tips for those who get stuck there of the seeing it versus the opposite of you need to feel it before you'll see it?
Well, you just said the key thing right there is that you feel it first. And that's something that we can all tune into. We can all tune into the feeling. So what would you like to add to that?
Well, there are a lot of things that kind of can constrict someone, holding them back subconsciously. And I like to call it just their consciousness, the construct of their consciousness. And that construct is built on thousands and thousands of beliefs. And those beliefs can be kind of tangled up and connected with each other, even though they may be unrelated. And so that's what kind of can hold someone back from moving forward. And the fastest way that I have found to get in there and make those changes happen and get past all of the normal things that are considered normal out there that most are experiencing is to get your subconscious mind on board with your conscious preferences. And the way to do that is to begin by sending the right signal, sending the right information to your subconscious and being very specific about it.
Another thing you can do to answer your question, like if there's something that you would like, but maybe you're not believing it yet, right? Is that what you're saying? Because
yeah, there's a lot of people there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What Carl said, and also because we create with how we think and feel and what we believe. So I would focus on what is the thing that you're asking for, and then tune in and ask yourself, well, what do I in this moment think about that? What do I in this moment feel about that? And how, and what am I believing about it? And just let that come on the paper. And then you'll be shown where they may not be in alignment with what they're asking for. And so if their thoughts are not quite in alignment with it, then they can change how they're thinking about it. And the same with how they're feeling and what they're believing. Now, just doing it with the conscious mind, that's only about 5%, 10% tops of the equation. It's really important that we get into the subconscious mind and changing it at that level.
So then, obviously, how do we get into the subconscious mind versus the conscious? The conscious is so easy, but how do we go deeper?
Yeah, well,
most are living in their conscious mind and are coming from the perspective of believing that that's who they are. And right there, that's kind of it's an awakening once we find out that that's not who we are. It's a tiny part of who we are. There are a variety of ways to get to work with the subconscious. I started out using a specific way of writing what I call power declarations just before I go to sleep, which is a window of time when the subconscious is the most receptive. And if it's done in a particular way during this window of time, it goes directly into your subconscious. And what I've found is the fastest way to change behavior, because this is what I was dealing with when I was younger, I was talking about, is like I kept repeating the same behavior, and it was very frustrating to me. So that was my quest to figure out a better way, a faster way to change myself. And the fastest way I've found is to program my subconscious mind, work through my subconscious mind. We call it living from the inside out. So by doing this particular writing process, I put specific declarations. It's almost like a set of instructions for the subconscious mind, which we call the team.
Yeah.
Because the team does all the heavy lifting when we live from the inside out. We don't go out in the world to make things happen. We go in to make things happen. And the way we go in is to get clear on what it is we'd like to see in the outer world, and then program specifically that reality on the inside. Now, we do like to focus on the essence of things so that it tends to be a higher level than what our conscious mind can construct. And however, you can do it both ways.
So back to what I was saying a moment ago, tuning into how you would like to think, feel, and believe about the thing that you would like to manifest, you can use this writing process for that. And it's so powerful when you focus on the essence of it, like what Carl was saying. So when you ask those questions, you're really tuning into the essence of it. And we like to start with I choose in these power declarations. When you choose, you're being in your power. And so you might say, I choose to think this about what it is. I choose to feel this way about what it is. I'm choosing to believe, and then you fill in the blank what it is. And if you do this, like right before you go to sleep, you do it in scripts, joined lettering. That's more on the right brain side. It's going to have an easy entry into the subconscious. You do this right before you go to sleep, and you focus on those three things. You will wake up and you will feel that you have a new thought, you have a new feeling, you have a new belief. And with repetition, it's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And then you're moving through your day and you're no longer thinking those thoughts and having those feelings and beliefs as before. They've shifted for you. So now you're getting more in alignment with it. And then the most important thing after that is to notice and appreciate it. Notice and appreciate what's showing up from that. Then you really see, okay, I am the creator of my reality. I put this in, and this is what's happening.
So I brought Terry, my co-host, up on stage with us.
Hi, Terry.
I did warn them, Terry, that you were coming at some point. I love that you brought up the fact of the journaling, getting those power statements before you go to bed. I've actually been thinking about going to the store, buying myself this specific notebook to leave on my side table to do just that.
Yeah.
So I like how you're already in my head.
Good.
We're there.
Yes.
And then right before this, we were talking about the feeling enough, the feeling worthy. And that's kind of where my head was going with this journal, was like the gratitude, the power statements that help me feel the way that I want to feel. Yeah. So do you find that there are patterns that keep coming up with the people that you work with about how they currently feel and where they want to go?
That's a great question. I have a very fast answer for you.
Good.
I can tell.
I found that in myself over and over and over again. Since Mind Flavors, that pretty much has transformed everything, and the whole playing field has changed. So in other words, all the life with definitions that we used to have, they kind of no longer apply, because many of the things that we used to have in our consciousness are no longer there. So we don't have those experiences in our day-to-day lives anymore. We have new experiences based on our preferences. And so it's kind of a unique question.
What I love to do is when I talk about people's stories, mental health and a lot of those emotions come up as just a natural byproduct. Because I'm like, if you're trying to work with this audience and you're trying to serve them, the people that I work with, they're mess to message. And so it's a reflection of who they used to be. So if they're not doing that inner work, then the way that they serve is still way down here. Like they're stopping themselves the whole time because it's uncomfortable to look at that version. So part of what I love to do is I ask them, like, in your deepest, darkest struggle moment, what were those emotions? What were you feeling? To speak to that point, Amy, where you were saying it's your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. Because I believe that there's 4 ways that we fail: thoughts, feelings, actions, and beliefs. But there are also the 4 ways that we succeed. So it's like, how can we change your thoughts from that struggle emotion to the emotion that you want to feel? And how do we change our beliefs and our actions and our feelings? It's like, bring it all this way. So I love that.
When I was listening backstage, I love how you said,
Terry, you're actually really low.
Turn up the volume.
Can you come closer to the mic, maybe? Or you just want to be able to hear you?
Yeah.
So I was listening backstage. Can you hear me now?
A little better.
Let me see if I can.
Maybe you can turn it up.
I don't believe I can turn her up specifically. Edit mic says. I can. Oh, I can't.
Now, can you hear me better now?
It's okay. We'll just hear you the way you. It's good.
There, try that.
Is that better?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Okay, good. So I was listening backstage, and I just love how you incorporated living from the inside out. Because I think that's so true. I'm always saying, just the other day on the show, I said, go within. Because if you don't go within, you go without. And
Yes.
but most people don't even think of it. The average person just doesn't even think of it. So I love that. Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I appreciate that, Terry. And most are so not aware of that, and most are living with doubt, worry, and fear. We just like to abbreviate that to DWF, so we just don't have to say those words, because we really believe that we create with our words, and when we give life, when we speak the word out loud, we're giving life to whatever that word is.
Exactly.
But there's even a lot of talk out there that we have to live with that, and we don't.
Yes.
That's what we would really like to be for. We don't have to live with that. And what I learned from the very beginning, which I was so fascinated about and so excited about, because usually we're here for what we experience all the things and then we share them, right? So I was filled with that DWF, like more than anybody else around me. I was like, I just took it all on, I guess, because I came here to figure these things out on my own. And so where was I going with that? Yeah, okay, this is what I learned in the beginning. So, because this was a big struggle for so many years. How do I change this? Because I really had a lot of internal emotional and mental discomfort from this, like really big. And so I learned a long time ago how we can get out of our head and be in our body and actually have that connection with our divinity in any moment. And that was like such a beautiful thing to discover, because in the process of still clearing all this, because today, because of Mind Flavors, Carl literally saved my life. He created this technology 9 years ago. I said 8 on another video recently, but it was actually 9. And at that point, I had tried everything, and I was really ready to check out of here, because I had learned a healing modality that got rid of the cellular memory. I had learned how to bring my awareness in my body so I could connect there. But how could I stay there? It wasn't easy to stay in that connection with my divinity. So I'd be getting up in my head all the time still. And I still had all these programs going on that were interfering with who I am and what I was here for. And I couldn't take it anymore, but he saved my life. And we've just been asking the question, like, our whole life, how can we do this quicker, easier, and faster? Because all the healing modalities I was studying was dealing with one belief at a time, one emotion at a time, and I had a gazillion, and I couldn't wait for that long. So,
that's why Carl keeps bringing it up.
Yes.
And even with the writing process, as powerful as it is, this was where my issue was, because I was manifesting things, wonderful things. However, because of all the other programs that were running underneath that weren't cleared out, they would pull me again in another direction. And so I wasn't having that full up leveling across the board that for me felt like the quality of life that I was looking for.
Yes.
And that's
so
what
times we hold on to stuff that block the energy. I was reading somewhere, it says it's not what you want, it's what you let go of.
Oh, that's so
good. Read that somewhere. I don't know who said that, but I just read that recently, yesterday or this morning. But it is, we hold on to stuff. And I learned an intention a while ago that I'll share with you because I think it's so powerful. I say this every morning. I make the intention to erase all beliefs, emotions, and thoughts that block the energy of God.
Oh, that's so good, Terry.
Yeah.
And I love that you speak that out like that, because we like to remind ourselves and others that we have this ability to do what you just said, right? Because we are the divine creator of ourselves, and we create
what we want. We have to make
yes.
aware. But and again, that is not mine original. I read that somewhere. I'm not sure who. So I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but that just stuck with me. And I read that years ago, probably. But I just say that every morning as a quick little prayer. Because I know in my life, looking back, I've blocked myself so many times by holding on to stupid stuff or things that you're not even aware of.
I think we're kind of conditioned to do that. So I think it's important that we're like, there's no, like, it's okay, whatever it was, right? And it's great that we're coming to this awareness now. We are just all programmed that way. And as creators of our own reality, it's up to us. We get to choose what we hold on to and what we let go of. So I think that's so beautiful that you have that focus on what you're choosing to release and let go of.
Oh, so you mentioned Mind Flavors a few times. And I know that I was like, what's the thing on your wall? Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So because of what we've been talking about and what I was going through with having that wonderful taste of being able to instantaneously manifest things, and yet only certain things and not other things, and sometimes other things wouldn't go the way that I liked. And that's what drove me to pursue finding a better way. And like Amy said, I just kept asking the question, how can I do this faster? And then the one thing I was certain of, programming my subconscious mind, living from the inside out, was 100% truth. So I had proven that to myself literally thousands of times. And so all of a sudden the answer came to me that was obvious. Oh, well, just program yourself to create the solution. And so I literally put in a specific program that I increased my manifestation abilities exponentially. Ooh. And then I was drawn to different ideas and ancient truths and through just bringing that clarity in and applying the inspiration that was coming to me on a consistent basis, I put together a 4.5-minute video that completely gets rid of mind chatter, gets rid of chronic doubt, worry, and fear in 4.5 minutes.
Wow. Not 4.5 months or years.
That's awesome.
Minutes.
Yeah. We actually have before and afters on our website and some other places where you can actually see it, because we offer a private screening for those who would really like to experience it. And we meet just like here on Zoom, and they start by saying, I'm about to experience mind flavors for the first time. And then we give them the space to do it. It's only 4.5 minutes. So after 4.5 minutes, we come back. They come back on Zoom, and we give them some space to share. And you can see it on their face. You can feel it in their energy. You can hear it in what they're expressing.
One of the most common things that we see is they just get this permagrin where they just can't stop smiling, and their conscious mind can't come up with a reason why they can't stop smiling. It's because it so quickly clears out all those old programs that are holding consciousness in a stuck position. So all the things that you've or someone has already been focusing on, but hasn't quite been getting the lift, getting off the ground, suddenly all the ties to the ground are gone, and all that energy they've been putting out just elevates.
And at the same time, it's bringing them in their body, and it's connecting them to who they are, and they can feel that. And often they'll describe it as, they'll say, oh, I feel like I'm home. I just feel like all of a sudden, like they're home, that sense. Yeah.
Well, okay, that was the piece that my body needed to hear. I make fun of myself because yawning is the way that I process, and it has nothing to do with how boring interviews are. It's because I'm trying to. No, I love interviews, but I yawn because I'm processing, and usually it happens because there's something that my body and mind needs to listen to. Apparently, that was it, because that was a big.
and that can also be a sign when we're shifting our identity, even if just a subtle shift, maybe a little bit of an up leveling. Yes.
You knew where I was going to go with this.
Yeah, so you all of a sudden just shifted more into your divinity, who you truly are. Yes. Yeah.
So I was going to ask about identity too. So
nice.
I know that identity plays a huge role in why we take action on the things that we take action on. And right, those thoughts, those feelings, those actions, those beliefs. Mm-hmm. If we're shifting our identity, those things naturally start to change. So can you kind of describe to us what identity really means along with the lines of that oneness and that feeling of home?
Well, we've been talking about identity lately too, and focusing really on our divine identity.
Okay.
And we have found on this journey that when we tune into our divine identity and live from this place where we feel trust, we feel this confidence of being, just being who we are tuned into the inner guidance, all of this, and now we're in alignment with our divinity, then everything just starts showing up. It's like, really, it's not really necessary to plan anything anymore. It's not really necessary to go out there and, like Carl likes to say, bang things into place.
Hammer it in with a 2x4. Yeah.
We just, being in our divine identity, we're just being present in the moment, and we're listening, and we're being guided, and we're being supported. And what we're asking for is showing up for us.
See, what is interesting is that we're talking about now a whole different, almost different plane of existence, because most are walking around believing that who they are is all of these programs that are not who they are. And when they see the mind flavors, it just clears that stuff out just immediately. This is why they feel like they're coming home, because now suddenly they're back to who they are without all of that. And it's not, their true identity hasn't shifted. Their consciousness of where they're putting their focus of who they are has changed. Because when they're in that focus of they believe there's someone who's had XYZ experience, who's had this kind of label and so on. There's so many labels. That's like being strapped down with 1,000 different ties, so they can't really move. And who they are is still in there. And when those things are taken away, who they are suddenly has the freedom to take a breath and stand up and shine.
Yeah, that's what my heart needed. Yeah, it does. It feels like this cutting of all those strings, those chords, those pieces of identity with all the roles that we play. We so often get caught in just, I'm the silo of a mom, of a wife, of an entrepreneur, and like all those other labels that we put on ourselves.
I see it as a whole new dimension.
Exactly. That's
Yes,
exactly.
a whole new dimension, Terry. That is it.
Well, I've been reading a lot and hearing a lot about, like, some people live in the third dimension. There's a fourth dimension and a fifth dimension, and we're all at different levels. But when you get to that level, it's like you're in the same world, but it's totally different.
Yes.
And it creates the magic of everyday life, the way I like to.
Yeah. And we
That's
enjoy
why
the fifth dimension. That's where we like to live.
You just put words on this whole situation that's been happening with me for the last few months. Like together, this whole conversation. Instead of, I was describing it as closing a chapter and trying to start a new one and grieving that chapter's closed because it's familiar, and then being in the limbo before starting the new one. But that's more of what it feels like, Terry. It's like that elevation of dimension.
Yeah.
Where it's not just a new chapter. It's like a whole new book.
It is. And there's something wonderful going on. As crazy as things are, I watched this program on Humanity Streaming, and they talk about we're in a time where all the negativity is being drawn to the surface so that it can heal. And we're going through this process. And then once everybody gets to the fifth dimension, it's going to be, 1,000 years of peace or whatever they talk about.
I love that you bring that up, because I'd like to share that it's really important reminder that, Terry, when those stuff is coming up, right, that you're speaking of, because it's got to get cleared out of all of us if we'd like to go where we'd like to go, because it can't come along with us, right, to those higher places. To remember that when we're feeling that stuff, when we get triggered, that there's nothing WRONG. Like, this is so important, because if we think that, then we're going to go in a spiral, you see. However, if we can just be aware of, oh, this doesn't feel good, but it's just another clearing that's happening.
And use the welcoming process. You just welcome it in instead of resisting it, and it just dissipates.
Yeah.
But it's part of the process. We need to cleanse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I'm so grateful for this conversation. Wow. So much depth here. I also want to make sure that in the next 10 minutes or so that we highlight the ways that you love to share your message, because this is Amplify Your Message. So obviously you do podcasts. Have you done any writing or speaking on stages? Where are you at?
Okay, we've done a number of podcasts over the years. We've spoken on stage when we had a short time on the stage.
You're still there.
What?
But you were still there.
We were still there. So that was good. We definitely have a few books in us. I feel like we're going to be writing our first book this year. We were in one of Corey's books, so that was fun to be part of that. We were in number 11 edition of that.
You're in the same one as me. Yay!
Oh, yes, good. But what's exciting is we're about to start our own show, and we're going to be starting an online community. And our focus here is we really like to gather those who would like to have these deeper consciousness conversations, because we're all about talking about how we change our reality by changing our consciousness, and we're here to create heaven on earth. So for those who would like to share in that vision,
like, Terry, that was so aligned. Great, there you go.
And more than just like a group, we're going to invite those who would like to actually come on Zoom with us every 7 days, starting next Wednesday, so we can connect together, so we can have these conversations together, probably an extension of what our show will be. But our first episode is coming out tomorrow.
What's the show called?
The Mind Flavor Show. Yes.
Good. Same brand.
Yes, we're creating heaven on earth.
I think you have a new fan.
What?
I said, I think you have a new fan.
Oh, good.
And then what is your book going to be around? Same kind of message?
Well, I actually wrote a book in 2012, but it was never published because it wasn't time for it. And I'm being shown now that I'm rewriting some of those because my language has elevated. We have really gotten into words and language, and we're very choosy about the words that we use in our focus. What the book is all about, I'm really here to bring forth also, in addition to everything I said, remembering who we are. Like let's wake up to who we are. So I think that's my book. Wake up to the truth of who you are. That's what it is. Wake up to the truth of who you are. And Carl, what's your book about?
Am I writing a book?
Yes, he's right. Okay, I have to speak for him.
Am I writing a book? I love it. Apparently you are.
Okay. So to share power declarations. And I really feel like his work in power declarations is so unique, unlike anything we've ever seen out there, that I really see it being similar to like Louise Hay's book, like a little, we love Louise Hay's book, The Heal Your Body. We use that in a lot of our work. She's so brilliant. But we've actually shifted the affirmations into power declarations. Because if we just affirm something, it may not enter the mind because the mind's going to argue if we attempt to affirm with something that's not true. However, when we're declaring it, the mind can't make an argument on that. And then when you put it in right before you go to sleep, it really does go into your subconscious and it creates change.
Yeah. One of my spiritual mentors taught me a way to work with affirmations because of just that. If they're not true right now, we tend to resist them. So she's like, start all of your affirmations, if you're going to do them, with the phrase, I'd like to think that, and then fill in with the rest. Because of course we'd like to think that I'm a strong, powerful woman, that I'm worthy and I'm enough. I can get on board with that, right? And I can continue to build that. It's like, oh, now I feel comfortable with all those things that I didn't feel comfortable with before. But then what you're doing, Carl, is you're taking that and you're elevating it again with the I choose, because it also, again, doesn't mean that we have to be there already. We're feeling it first and then it comes, just as we said at the beginning.
So I actually like to look at this kind of more in a mathematical sense because they're equations.
Yeah.
So when I hear what you're saying, I'll just tell you if you're open, I'll give you my feedback on that. When we're programming the subconscious mind, it's really important that we tune into the state of already being and then describe it from there. Because if we're trying, and I use that word on purpose, trying to get there, and we're programming that, then we'll always be trying. And that's what the subconscious mind will manifest. So when you said, I'd like to think that, what I see is if I put that into my program, then I would be in a perpetual state of liking to think that, and it would never actually be in the present moment.
Yes.
To the degree that it can be.
Yes.
Now that's one aspect of it. Another aspect was you're mentioning the choice part. When we skip over all that, there's a way to leapfrog ahead.
Yeah.
And that's just to choose it and to declare that you're choosing it. Then the subconscious has no pattern written in it to resist that because it's a declaration. It's not a connected to a belief about a reality experience.
Yeah.
And even just reframing it in your mind, see what happens. It might be a cool experiment, Laura, to do what you're already doing, but reframe the affirmations to a declaration and saying, this is my declaration. This is what I'm choosing to declare for myself.
That's what I started doing the last couple of years. Because as you're going through this journey of spiritual growth and spiritual awareness, you're finding the tools that work in the moment, but then you're finding tools that make it even better and even better and even better. And I was like, this is a beautiful experience because I didn't even start with affirmations.
Because we keep growing, Terry. That's right. Because we keep expanding and growing, and yes.
It's so wonderful. I also want to make sure that we know where to find you. I could keep going with you two for hours, but where do we find you and what is your favorite way to communicate?
Our favorite way to communicate is email.
That works.
We're at mindflavors.com. So and we're on Facebook.
If you feel like from what you've heard, you'd like to actually experience the Mind Flavors technology and you're really ready to leapfrog ahead in life, so to speak, you can go to mindflavors.com/experience, and you can connect with us there, and we'll actually meet with you one-on-one and give you the opportunity to experience it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then I always love to hold space at the end of an interview just to make sure that whatever was on your mind or in your heart, you have a chance to say it. So if there's something that you needed the audience to take away from our conversation today, what might that be?
I would just like to say, take a moment and tune in right now and remember who you are. Take a breath and tune into your heart and feel that you are a divine being. You are full of love and light, and anything is possible for you.
Anything is possible.
And you are a brilliant genius.
Yeah.
I'm feeling the same feelings as I
As
did when
we all are. As we all are.
Yes, we all are. Yes, we all are.
All creative genius within us.
Yes.
Have to learn how to tap into it.
Yes. And clear out anything in the way that's not who we are so we can be who we are fully all the time.
Yeah, and it sounds like you guys have learned how to tap into it and can share that with others. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank
I'm
you.
so
Terry.
happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Laura.
Yeah.
Terry, it's so great to meet you.
Yes.
And Laura, it's so nice to finally have a conversation with you like this. So we're really grateful. Thank you.
Yes.
I think the last time it was Scott and I running the Amplify Your Message event a couple years ago. Like, I think that was the first time that the three of us really had a conversation instead of just networking. So it's been a while. Yeah.
Are you saying we were on a show?
I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah.
I don't think so.
I'll have to double check. Either that or it just feels like you've already been here forever.
We were on Corey's events.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have to look it up. If I find it, I will definitely send you the link and be
We'll
like,
have a big laugh.
Well, it's funny. It's funny because we connected with someone, and we were looking at some of their training materials and watching one of their training sessions, and all of a sudden we saw ourselves.
Isn't it great?
we were right there on the camera in the screen. So
You're like, wait, if I already took this, then why?
It's true. I don't hold on to everything. And, as we continue to evolve so quickly, it's literally like we're living in a new reality. Like you said, Terry, a new dimension. We're continually evolving and changing, and we're even shifting timelines. So it's possible. If you find that, I would love to see. And
yeah,
that would be great.
I mean, I won't do it while we're live because it'll take me a little bit of digging.
Yes, of course.
If I find it, yeah.
All
So
right.
it seems like our next guest isn't here yet. So I will make the invite that if you would like to stay a few minutes longer, you're more than welcome to. Usually what we do if we have extra time like that is we kind of do some insights of what we were talking about, what our favorite parts were, any sort of added value to our audience. So was there a part that stood out to you today, Amy and Carl, that you really liked or enjoyed?
I enjoyed it all.
None. You enjoyed none.
For me, this is all play. This is all play for me.
Yeah.
Really, we've gotten to the point in our lives where this is what's fun for us is having these conversations about expanding consciousness. We really feel like we're on the leading edge of that, and the things that we're seeing and experiencing are just so beyond anything we ever thought was possible before. And even having this conversation with someone who hasn't experienced it, it's like in order to actually fully comprehend you, it requires experiencing it and having that clarity from having those cobwebs cleared out. So I'm excited about the idea that more and more are learning about this so that we can have a bigger conversation with more on this topic.
It really is like nothing you've ever experienced before, and really to grasp what we're saying, it's necessary for you to experience it for yourself. So we would like to say to you or anyone who is watching that if you're feeling calling inside to experience this, please do it now, because we have been doing this with our members for almost 6 years, and we're just now getting the word out. for the first number of years that we started, it's like we've been keeping this a secret, It's like we haven't advertised, we haven't promoted or any of that. And the individuals were just finding us. And we have even been told that the ones that are showing up on a soul level, they were asking for this technology to be created. And it just happened to come through Carl. And it really is remarkable.
So Terry, was there anything that stood out to you today that you enjoyed?
Yeah, just the whole concept. It was really great meeting both of you. And I love what you just said, Amy, that it came through Carl.
Yeah.
Because that's how the other side works. We're just like I said before, just a vessel.
We're just a vessel. Yes.
For the divine use.
Yes. And when we keep asking questions, we get answers.
Exactly.
And that's how we're kind of aware of what our path is. It's like the questions that we're having. If we keep tuning in, keep asking the question, keep listening, keep paying attention to the signs that we're being given, you'll be guided to whatever that is for you. And this is what it was for us.
Yeah.
And
my first book is titled Journey to My Soul, Following Divine Navigation. So I'm really familiar with being guided and yeah.
Oh, I have a comment for you, Amy and Carl. There you go. Marcella says, I'll look forward to meeting them soon.
Yes, we're going to see her soon. Yes.
Yes.
Were you going to say one more thing?
Oh, okay. For today, what I loved the most was I don't think any person only gave me 3 words. There was always one of them that was more of a descriptor.
I did.
You did what?
I gave you 3 words when you asked me.
Oh, but that wasn't today. That was a different day.
Sorry.
Today's pattern was, I don't think other than Amy. Oh, I guess Wendy too. But there was still like these grander ideas behind their words versus the typical of this week was, I want to be seen as kind. I want to be seen as focused. I want to be seen as creative and authentic. Those ones almost always are said by people. But here, Amy and Carl are like, we're full of love and filled with life and divine. And of course, both of them are passionate. And since you're always together, I'm assuming that you guys have so much passion every day. Not necessarily all day, but like a lot.
Well, I was surprised that you said that same word. And I was surprised that it even came out of me. It just came out. And that is true about us, but I've just never thought about it before. I can't remember the last time you asked me that question. So that was cool that you said the same thing. Yeah.
And then if I ask you the same question now, some of those words might change, which is why I always do it at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't want to guide people into certain words. I want, the trick of just working with the subconscious. I don't want you to think about it. I just want you to say it.
Yes.
Yeah. Girls laughing and smiling. Now you get the beginning of the interview where I go shake, 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 take you out of your pre-programmed, and let's see more of who you are and not the pre-programmed you. Yeah. So I guess what we're going to do is I'm going to wrap up for the day since I'm not seeing anything, which is fine by me. It's Friday and my husband took the day off and my daughter's home now. So what I would like to say to everyone watching is thank you very much for being here all week for Blue Talk's Amplify Your Message. If you're interested in the community, we do have free networking the second Wednesday of every month, which you can join us. Just message pretty much anybody who's been here on the interviews. You can message me anytime. And you can be a part of Blue Talks books. There's lots of people on the backs of those. So many stories and wonderful people. Most of the people that we interview have been in one of these books. So you also get to read their story. Also, the Experts Bootcamp that was originally planned for the end of this month is moving to June. So if you haven't received an email about that, please check in with Corey or any of the Blue Talks groups and we will get you set up. And what he's doing for the Experts Bootcamp this time is book sales, since we talk about books and ways to amplify your message. So he's got a new book called The Enlightened Passenger, where the only entry fee is buying a copy of his book. And we're going to be teaching you different ways to help sell more books. So you get to be a part of that process and watch all of the behind the scenes. So again, thank you, Amy and Carl, for being here. Thank you, Terry, for last minute co-hosting with me.
Thanks for inviting me. Yeah.
So
my pleasure.
Yeah. So did anybody have any final comments before we say goodbye?
Just so much appreciation and love for you both. And it was just
Yes.
such a pleasure, Laura and Terry, to connect with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Same here.
Okay.
Aw, thank you, Terry. So we don't get to come back tomorrow. It's not same bat channel, same bat time. We are done for the week. But the next Blue Talks Amplify Your Message event is July. Let me pull up my calendar. Due to May, June. Scooch, scooch, scooch. July. So July 15th through 19th. Same time. And for those interested in attending Blue Talks Live, they're going to be here in Halifax with me. So if you're coming to Blue Talks Halifax, it's June 25th and 26th. So if you're there, I will give you a hug. Just tell me you're part of the Blue Talks and I'll give you a hug. So much love. Everyone, sending love and kisses and loving light. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Excellent.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
And then I
Cheers.
do the dance and little